So Dennis Hogan is in the building. I don't know the BOs and WBOs, but you're the number one ranked contender for the world boxing ranks.
Yeah, I've been number one mandatory when I fought for the WBO World Championship last year. I then moved up to middleweight for a world championship fight, and now I'm back down to super welterweight. So we've got a world title eliminator, which was meant to be earlier this year. But now it's going to be later on this year, so it's all going. We've had a lot of exciting few years gone, and we've another good few exciting years to come too. So I'm very excited.
So for those of you that don't know boxing, fucking gangster is basically the long and the short of it. I'm actually been lucky enough to see you fight. I went and watched. Maybe it was the last fight you fought in Australia actually when I was there with Cleary, and it was just impressive to see. Like real boxing, if that makes sense. You know, you can go, I love the MMA scene in Australia. Like I always go to the Eternal MMA fights. Big, UFC fan. I like going to boxing, like amateur fights and pro fights here in Australia. But like seeing someone like on your level was very cool to see for the first time, like in person, not on TV.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, that was a big fight. That was a lot on the line that time too. I had already become mandatory while I locked in to fight the number 15, and I was number 1 at the time. So it was everything for me to lose. Realistically, a lot of people would have pulled and said, we don't need to fight this, we've got the champion next. But
because he was a young kid too, like up and comer, right?
I mean, he was he had less experience than me. I don't think he was too much. He was a bit younger, but mate, I'll tell you what, and you get somebody there that has the opportunity to leapfrog all the way from 15th in the world to 1st in the world. They're coming with their best. Yeah. And for me,
motherfuckers come at you in the gym, let alone a real fight.
I've said this before. I've said that you'll never know what it's like when I became top 15. After that, every single person that got in to spar me is now looking to take my head off, because they want to see where they are against you. Yeah. So it's only like a couple of people like myself and Jeff that know how to box and roll with it, and just a few other guys just know how to roll with it and just try and
get good work, but without killing each other.
Good work without like there's times where there's times where Jeff can throw in a bigger shot and we just don't. So now we can keep working with each other. We can do more rounds. We don't. But when you get those guys that come in for the first time, and they're a little bit like, you're where I want to be. Yeah. And I'm gonna try, and I'm gonna make you work here.
And people talk too. Yeah. Like you hear those stories of like when Paulie fought Conor, like sparred him, and it was like that was a huge news, like because that's essentially what you're talking about. Like Paul Malignaggi was a world champion in boxing, and then Conor wasn't, and instantly they put Conor on that level. Like he just knocked out a world champion, even though it was in sparring, and it looked good.
I mean, it looked, I always like to see the full videos of everything that went on too.
Have they released that yet? It's still not out, eh?
Nah, I haven't seen anything like that, but it's really not cool to do that in boxing. Yeah. It's really not cool. I know John Kavanagh. I met him, had coffee with him down in Melbourne and all that. Lovely fella. I don't know how that video got out there, but all I know
UFC would have done it for sure.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. And I don't know if Paulie was in it or not. Actually, Paulie interviewed me for my pre-fight interview before my fight, because he's Showtime. Yeah. And lovely fella as well. And I'm thinking, right, you've got McGregor, you've got these guys, and how did all that come about? Was that just a big money thing or not? I don't know. But
you never know in that world, right?
I know. But here's the thing with boxing, right? And it's happened to me before. If I think it's a spar that like, that you're getting in and you need to be 100% right, you're getting in and you're doing all the basics right and everything, okay? But then sometimes, like when you're on a flow and you're trying to learn new things, this is where sparring can be a little bit different, because you're only in there trying out these things that you've learned. Yeah. And sometimes because of that, you're a split second off and you can just be hit with a shot that will knock you off balance. And it is what it is. You know what it is. It's a little bit embarrassing, but then all of a sudden, then word gets out around Brisbane and then everywhere that you've just been knocked out by this kid. But the worst thing is for that kid, the next time he comes back, I'm going to give him a bit of a touch up now. You know, but not, I don't know, not really. You don't go in with bad intent or anything, but you have to. But you have to come back and get back to your basics, and you have to start doing that again, and then just to see, you know, before you start trying new things again. So
you can feel like you'll get clipped and you're like, yeah, okay, I shouldn't have, that just wasn't all the way clean yet. Because I can feel that same shit in jiu-jitsu, whereas I'll do something and I'm like, it's probably not going to happen. But I wouldn't do that in a competition.
Yes.
But I'm doing it in the gym, and then you're like, yeah, fuck, makes sense. You'll get caught after it.
Well, see, that's the right place to do it. So what you do is, everything in a fight must be just reactionary. It must be just 100%. You're not thinking in there, right? Relate that back to everything that you've done in sparring. Will then come out in the fight, right? But in sparring, all those things that you try, you get them right on the bag, and you make them instinct on the bag. Then in a spar. So if you're in a spar going, I'm going to try this now, I'm not sure, don't do it. You'll probably get clipped. It has to flow nicely. So if you do it enough times over and over and over again on the bag or in drills, it will just flow in a spar, and that's a beautiful feeling. Instinct, I've actually been clipped twice in sparring by guys lighter than me, believe it or not, and it's always been when I was trying to do something specific. And so once that happens, it's just embarrassing. It's just like, oh, okay, I get back up, get back to my basics, and then you start winning rounds again, and you know it doesn't mean anything. You know you need to go back to the bag and get it right there first again.
So is that okay? That just fucking makes a bit of sense for me. So is that why the importance of like drilling for you and bag work? Because for me, when I'm talking in a jiu-jitsu sense, obvious disclaimer, they're two fucking different sports, but it's still techniques and it's still a version of combat. Yeah. And I'll just try everything in rolls. Like I never drill or practice anything. I kind of learn it, and then I just do it in sparring. Yeah. That's my whole mentality behind it, because I'm like, if I can do it in a roll, then like what's the point of like trying to do it in a drill? Like I'll just try and do it over here. But the instinct thing makes sense, because I feel like some of my best, most like proudest moments that I've got in terms of like in a training room is when it was just instinct. And that was stuff that, granted, I'd done it a lot in rolls, but it's like maybe you could get it to that instinct point because of the drills, to where it's always going to work in the rolls. Yes. And and if there's anything that you're looking to do it in a few drills a few times where you feel like, fuck, I can't get this wrong. Yeah. You know, then Bruce Lee had some kind of saying, don't do it till you get it right, do it till you can't get it wrong. And if you do that, then that's what happens. And believe it or not, when you're in the flow, and there, I realised a few years back there is such a thing as the flow. Yeah, I totally
where
agree.
Time does feel like it's going slower, and your confidence is up, and you feel like you can do nothing wrong, and in that moment you can't. And so that's in the flow is where everything happens. Like I could plan to do a certain combination, and it'll flow, and it'll be what it is, and whatever. But sometimes when I just react from what people do, and I throw about 5 punches, I'm like, how did I even sometimes you mesmerize yourself a little bit, but it's through doing it a million times that it just flows when it's supposed to, and your brain knows and makes all those. I'm just brilliant at patterns. I've always been brilliant at patterns, but not to consciously think about them, to mentally know them. And that's what we spoke about a little bit before this started, when we spoke about just psychology and everything else. It was patterns that I started to notice that got me into that in a big way.
So what were those patterns that first got you onto that path?
In terms of boxing or psychology?
I guess like the boxing stuff that led you into the psychology. Like, did it come first in like more of you researched it, thought about the psychology of it, and then implemented it in boxing? Or did you notice it in boxing, learn about the psychology, and then implement it in life? Yeah, look, a lot of it kind of happened at different times, but I definitely know that I could definitely get a feeling if something wasn't going right, like you know, cycles going on. Sometimes like I started to realise, when I nearly started to get the feeling before I got in there of when I was going to box really well and when I wasn't, and what was going on for me at that point.
And then you start to look back then, but what was going on there? And I'll just tell you, you know, Phil Johnsey, I had a session with Phil Johnsey before. He was a psychologist for the Australian cricket team and for the Broncos.
Yeah.
And he had a runner, and she could run the best times, and she could have bad days too. And he just said, well, how do you feel on the days you run good? And she goes, oh, I get up, I feel good. I'm in the car, I'm talking to everybody. When I get there, I help the kids and all that till I'm ready to go, and then I won the best times ever. And what happens when you're not? Oh, I just don't feel up to it, and I'm sitting in the car and I'm not really talking. I get there, I keep to myself, and then I don't run well. And he said, well, what if you just start to emulate the days when you do feel good and see how you go. Start talking in the car on your way in. Go help and see if that can change your any before. And lo and behold, it did. So a lot of psychology, that was when he told me that, it made a lot of sense for me too. I'm like, you know, they say fake it till you make it. I think that has a different meaning, but in terms of when it's fight night and you're getting that feeling during the day that you're not really feeling it, then you know, I started thinking back of what would I do the days that I am feeling it, and I started to emulate that, and you start to get yourself into the energy of it, and before you know it, it's right before you're about to go out there, and you've gotten into the energy of where you need to be. So that's just getting yourself into the flow and getting yourself ready. But in terms of everything else, people ask how much is mental, how much is physical, and I reckon it's all mental. Your body can only do what your mind will let you, and it's just figuring out patterns in your life, in what's working for you, and just keeping to that. Take in what's working for you and let go of what's not.
Yeah, well, we mentioned before, I actually should mention too that we sat down and we did like a full proper chat before this, because I had some computer stuff going on, and it, like, I've never really done that before, but man, we touched on like so much really cool stuff. So I guess the goal now of this is just to try and retouch on like all the cool shit we spoke about before.
Yep.
But you mentioned the Fake It Till You Make It, that Joe Dispenza book.
Yeah.
I wish I could remember the name of the particular book. I'll try and post it at the bottom. But he doesn't. I've always believed in the fake it till you make it thing.
Yeah.
But now, after reading that book, he more talks about act like your future self.
Yes. And
like, I've always kind of been scared to do that. I just thought that was something that had to be earned. Like, if you basically, I associated with, if you acted like your future self before you'd earned it, then you were just being like egotistical and cocky. Whereas I'm like, well, you don't have to act like a dude 10 years down the line or 5. You can literally act like the dude that you want to be in 30 minutes. Mm. And you can act like that dude in the present moment. Yeah. So if that dude in, you know, an hour from now is a guy that just went to the gym, just got dog food for his dog, and then got home and did his washing before he sat down to read a book. Like, be that dude.
Yeah.
Do whatever you've got to do in the moment right now to affect that guy and like be that person. That to me is more, you know, act like your future self, more so than fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
And like, that's something I've been trying to implement a lot more lately, and then taking that a little bit further and be like, what's the dude, like, what's the future me in a month? What's the future me in a year? Can I act a little bit like that guy now that would help me get to that guy?
Yeah.
Without being like some cocky cunt that's got something before he hasn't earned it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I love that, and I'll just tell you that when you say the cocky and that, okay, so it's a bit more like about a vibration. So I feel it's not just, you know, people think a law of attraction is just thinking about, you got to be able to feel it, so you bring about what you feel. So so it's really about envisioning how you would perceive, how would you act if you had that already, and then you got to feel those emotions. So I was actually quite good at doing that through as I've said before, I've had a lot of mentors, and also the Joe Dispenza books. He really did it in one of the meditations that he did that I've done, being able to get into that vibration. How would you feel if you had this? So what you do is you then start to feel that vibration. Maybe if it involves, like, say for me, a press conference, going off and getting investing in a nice suit, that's what it is, all of those things. But here's the thing, and I like the way you said it, you know, the whole thing about, you know, sort of being arrogant and everything. Well, if you get into that space, what I find is, especially in the boxing game, I'll find it very quickly if I get into that space, because life will humble me. So if you're acting somewhere where you're not actually, you can dress that way, you can start to feel that way, you can do all of those things, you can start to speak that way, but you've got to start backing it up in the physical as well. And so if when I start saying that I would be world champion, and I was going over to Mexico to beat the world champion, and
which many people think you still did.
I mean, I did feel I feel like I should actually be the champion. So so I got myself into the energy of how that felt. Yeah. What did it feel like to beat the monster that everyone was afraid of? What did it do? And I got myself into that energy in that space, and you can hear it in my words. And so we went out to Germany now, and we put on a great performance. All was good, but to get to that point, right? I didn't get the decision, but to get to that point, I had to start to see it and feel it, right? And then that started to manifest the opportunities for me to back it up physically. Yeah. So then I'd beaten the number 6. Then I had beaten, when I was number 2, I beat the number 3. Then I went to number 1, I had to beat the number 15, but I had to still stay in the energy that I am the best. But what happens is life starts to give you those tests to say, how, are you really? And when you do, and you start to beat those tests, that's when it starts to amplify your confidence even more into that person that you had perceived and felt like you wanted to be. And then all of a sudden, one day you just show up as that person. Yeah. But if you just, I met a guy before back years ago. I was in Ireland. We were in a sauna. It was before a title fight out in Germany.
Fucking Euros in their saunas, bro.
Yeah. Well, I met this guy in there anyway, and he was from McGregor's gym. But he was going around. He was kind of talking like McGregor. But I got a sense off him that he was just saying these things, thinking that if you just say them, that it will catch up with you. Yeah. But you truly have to believe them. You gotta truly feel how it feels. And when you get to that point, it's in a moment then you know that it's possible. Yeah. And then you gotta back the work up to do it. So it's all these things in conjunction with each other that then give the result, I feel. Going around, like McGregor says, if you speak it, you'll see it. Yeah, but you have to believe it too. You have to truly believe it.
Because there's a difference between thinking you can win and knowing you can win. Yeah. That's and I just remember that from racing, because the one of the biggest parts of the race in motocross, because that's kind of where I come from, is there's 40 guys on the start line, and they're all in a line. There's no grid. They all start in the same line, and then it funnels into a turn. Now, technically, I was a really good starter. If I practiced starts, I did the technique, and I could really get good starts. But when it come to a race decision, or a race situation, I never got the whole shot. There's very, very few races where I was the first dude through that first turn, even though when I practiced, I was really, really technically good at it. And it was belief. Yeah. And it's I could say I'd sit there and be like, I want to get the whole shot. I want to get the whole shot. But I didn't. Yeah. I was scared of getting the whole shot because I knew that there was 5, 6, 7 other dudes that were way faster than me. Yeah. And I didn't want to be embarrassed by that, by getting the whole shot and then passing back. So I was get a start kind of where I thought I should be, where I belonged. And I never really kind of let myself get those good starts. And man, you can see it across all racing. The same dudes get the whole shot. The same dudes get the good starts. They get the same positions, and all the other guys there's a natural order to, I guess, the fucking way things are because of what people believe of themselves. Yeah. And it's I've gotten better at sport with especially my jiu-jitsu stuff. This is the best I've ever done at a sport, really. I've never thought I'd be a national champion at anything. Yeah. But I think so much of that come from the insecurity that would have held me back from allowing myself to get a good start in a race, or thinking that I belong somewhere. This just with the jiu-jitsu stuff, I just kind of don't give a fuck. Choke me if you want, I don't really care. I'm just gonna have a crack at it. Yeah, yeah. It's so true.
And there's also little things as well, mate, that sometimes if you have an attachment to something that you want so much, sometimes that get in the way, because it's it's pretty deep when it comes to it. But I've relinquished, I do visualize, and I can see the belt on me, and I know I'll be world champion. I know I'll be those things. But I had to relinquish the feeling of needing it, because I was getting like, I'm so close now, you know, this is it. And when you do, because when you're putting out the don't forget, we bring about what we feel. There's a thing called there's a reticular activating system inside of us that gives out a vibration, and that sends it out and then brings it back to us. That's our life. It's what we're putting out, we're getting back.
Yeah.
And so if I'm vibrating as the champion right now with no attachments to it, it's going to come to me a lot quicker than I'm vibrating, I need the title. Because if you're saying I need it, it means you don't have it. You're vibrating that you don't have it, is going to get back that you don't have it.
You're not going to get it,
So it's funny you say that, because if you're just enjoying something and having fun learning, you're probably going to get more successful a lot quicker than is if you feel like you need to be something specific. But as well as what you said there as well, it is all, I truly say that the two guys that go into a fight will get, you know, it's down to whoever believes they'll win the most, right? And that's what it will be. And I have a very innate knowing and intuition. And so when we went to all those last guys that I had beaten when I got my last wins, I knew I would win, right? And so when we went to Mexico, they said to me, "Do you think you can beat this guy?" I said, "I know I can. I know I can outbox him." And they're like, "What do you think? Get the decision?" And I went, see, I didn't have certainty about that.
Yeah, right.
I didn't. And
because of external factors like judges, and it was in Mexico. Yeah. Because he was a Mexican fighter, right?
He was a Mexican fighter in Mexico. Yeah. Everything all in his favour. And so
and he's the champ
back,
too currently, right? So it's like that's such a like you see with like Ioane and Jacek's fight last week. Did you watch that, or a couple of weeks ago?
I've heard so many people speak about this. I've seen her face after.
Mate, it was fucking brilliant. Me and Cleary are texting each other just going, "Are you fucking believing?" It was like when Forrest Griffin fought Stephan Bonner, but for chicks.
Okay.
It was like that level of just like, Jesus fuck.
I need to see this.
Yeah, it was brilliant. But coming down to what we were saying is that I could see either of those girls winning a decision, and I personally would have bet that Joanna won that fight. But there's just something about being the fucking champ. Yeah. Like, you've really got to beat a champion for people to go, that crown is no longer his. Yep. That's a real motherfucker when it comes to, because like the position that you're in, you guys fucking had a fight, and it's like a lot of people thought, even when I watched it, I was like, I feel like Dennis has won this fight. Yeah. But there's that champion thing. And then especially the hometown thing, like that's a real factor that subconsciously, I think, sticks in people's mind more than people give it credit for, maybe. Yeah,
I mean, there is that, but even feeling like any round was close, we were quite we were honest about that. We knew that was the case. Yeah. Any rounds that were close, but there was definitely 7 rounds that I'd done enough to beat the champ in his hometown. When I look back, and because I felt like it was 8 rounds. Yeah. I felt like I should have got the last round. People had given it against me, but it was my largest round on CompuBox. I had landed 5 more power shots and 3 more jabs. It's just because he was huge. Coming forward. Yeah. But he's coming forward as the champion in his home, looking dominant. They go, that's easy for him, even though Dennis outpunched him in that one. Yeah. It's just the physical feeling of it all.
Have you spoken much about these fights yet?
Yeah, I've probably spoken a bit about that one. A little bit about that one, but I mean, everyone knows where I stand. Everybody's the same with me on that one.
I haven't heard anyone that says much different.
Yeah. So, we were meant to get a rematch, and then we didn't, and then we went and we had gotten PBC were interested in me as were our promoters, and we locked in a 3-fight promotion with Top Rank, and a 3-fight deal. And. We had a really guy for a world title eliminator, and then it was meant to be world championship and defence, and it was a great deal done there. And apparently that fella pulled out, and then at middleweight, then there was Charlo sitting there, and I had heard that they had asked 10 people to fight him in that amount of time.
He's a fucking monster, right?
Hey, mate.
He is a fucking monster.
I mean, I told myself what I need, because I did fight at middle. I was light heavyweight champion of Ireland, and I just thought, well, first of all, I'll be honest, the conversation went like this. Right, Dennis, you've got this brilliant deal there at 154. I love fighting at 154 because I've been there so many times. I know what it's like. I've just, fought Munguia, who's a bigger puncher. So, in terms of power, what I get hit with, what I give back, I know I can stop them in their tracks a lot with what I do and all. But then you've got one of the fastest, slickest, fast twitch big punchers and middleweight. But first of all, I went, you know what? I always go with my certainty. I go with my intuition. It's very strong. And I said, I don't want to do this fight first up. So I declined it first off, the very first conversation. I said, it's an unknown. This is middleweight. I don't box at middleweight. It's an unknown. And then so I was being pitched on it again, a couple of different angles. And I just said, and they were like, well, the money is better. They've made the money really good, and they've done all these things. And then I said, but here's the thing with me in my career right now. I'm so close to hitting a goal that I was never meant to achieve. At my own weight. If I was to take this and lose and then be set back another few years, I couldn't live with myself. And they said, well, they came back to me and said, well, PBC have said you're one fight away from a world championship at 154 again if you take this fight. And I was like, oh, how could I say no now?
Yeah.
So then Dennis Hogan thinking kicked out and Hurricane kicked in. Right, let's do this. And then I was delighted.
That Irish cunt kicked in.
Exactly. And we went all for it and just gave it everything in training. And if anything, overdid it. I overcooked myself again for the second time. Now, when I say this, I know that might be people saying, oh, don't make excuses, whatever. There's no excuses. I was Charlo in there, right? Who knows what would have happened? He punched like a mule. Those the shots that he hit actually didn't even hurt because it was just so. I'm boxing. What? I'm on the ground. What? The first time in my life been properly knocked down.
Yeah, you've never been knocked down.
Never
before,
been knocked down. And his first shot was beautiful. What he'd done was beautiful, right?
And it was fucking sneaky to where like it hadn't thrown a lot before it, eh?
Yeah.
And that was just fucking.
Yeah, it was. So I'll just tell you the genius of it. So what I've got going for me is really fast entries and smart exits. So you get in fast, you get out fast. You would have seen me playing with Munguia all night with that.
Yeah.
And with this guy, I did notice when we were watching tape of him before, he steps backward a bit, and he's very fast to do that. So that sort of leaves you, when you're coming in with a planned attack, sometimes it sort of leaves you in no man's land a little bit.
So he's more of a counter puncher.
Yes,
yeah. So he's punching off the back foot more.
And especially being patient. So he steps back, and he sort of has you at his long range. So I was sort of, I sort of knew it going in, but then we were looking for his 1-2 and his right uppercut. We were watching for those. His right uppercut is devastating.
Yeah.
And so what I was doing, okay, so he's stepping back. I said, okay, I'll get him now this time. I'm going to get him with I thought this is going to be a big one now. This is going to be a round stealer. I was coming fake to the head, down to the body, bang, bang, bang. That was what I was trying to do. This time, he didn't step back, and he just threw this left uppercut that just came straight underneath my right hand. That was just coming back, just came up there and boom. And when I look back on it, I think that was genius because he was setting me up all the time. So I'm very acutely aware of that now because you get me once with it, I feel like you won't get me again. But the knockout that got the fight in the end was absolutely on my fault, and there was no genius. Well, I mean, it was good what he did, but I was in one spot for too long. You see what Munguia, I didn't allow myself to do that, but my legs had tightened up, and again, like in my training camp, when we got over to America, I had a hip injury just before I went. I had lower back stuff, I had quad stuff. I'd just done so much training, and with flying over to the press conference and flying back again, my body is full of cortisol. Yeah. And as you're still training and getting ready, you got to do it. That still keeps filling, and I'm doing all my physio and massage and magnesium baths with the floats, doing all of that stuff. But it just wasn't enough to balance out all the work that I was putting in. I was putting in huge hours in the gym because that's what we felt was needed for this. But when I got in there that night, my legs my whole body my legs didn't want to move like it did on the night of Munguia. The in and out, and I just stayed in the spot for a second too long, split second too long. And when he threw the jab, I thought the right hand was coming again, and I was lazy because I was trying to conserve energy because my legs had been through the miller. So he was throwing the right hand, and I'll just say, up to that point, anytime he missed with the right hand, I was going, hoo, just to, play with it a little bit. But so after the jab, I thought the right hand was coming, but he feinted it and he threw a hook. Yeah. And as I was going down to get out of the way, the right hand, he caught me beautiful. Yeah. Boom. And when I stood up, I said, what is that pain in my head? But I said, I can make this anyway. The referee said, walk forward. I stumbled off a little bit, and so that was the end of the fight. And so when they got me over, they went, so my nose had been properly like pointing over that way after it as well. So the power of that man is just unbelievable, and hats off to him. Yeah, I can't wait to see him in his next fight now, because I think he's mandatory for Canelo. Canelo's flying around all the weights, winning lots of world championships, but him and Canelo are on a collision clause.
That'll be a good fight.
That would be a great fight.
What was the respect like? Because I can imagine a guy like him that's like, people are sort of dodging him pretty much left and right, and then you got a guy that comes up a weight division to fight him. Like, was there a respect after there between you boys?
There was a respect. There was. Well, from what he said back, like especially from his coach Ronnie Shields, he had said to my team, he said, "Look, we." Given Dennis's movement, we went off and we did sand work for a whole week to get the fast twitch fibers to be able to try and cut him off. And they did all this extra work, and I think with the left hand they brought that in especially because they knew how quick I was to avoid right hands. So they gave us a lot of respect there. But I will say that the respect that I got from the boxing world was incredible. I never expected that. I felt a little bit down because of that. I'm like, oh geez, 2019, what a year. But the respect that I got, the fact that, and I didn't know this was a thing, because my mentality is you go out there and you give it everything. But the amount of people that said to me, and Stephen Espinoza from Showtime was like, Hogan, you came to fight, man. You came to fight. And they were all delighted with that. And
you're like, fucking, that's what I'm here for.
Of course, who doesn't? And then you look back and you're like, a lot of people get in there to survive, to get their paychecks. They don't want to get hurt by it.
They don't want the damage.
They don't want the damage. And that opened my eyes a lot. But so they certainly are giving me the title eliminator again, and we're back on again. So if you look at all the last few years, it's been a massive it's been a massive journey. Like the boxing for me that I learned, I actually love. I truly do love. But to get to where you need to be mentally and physically, you have to keep going outside your comfort zone. And who I've become as a person, I think right now, if I was to walk away from boxing and what I've gained from trying to always get that mental edge, those little 1%ers, how far I go to execute and get the little 1%ers has just made me, a whole different person. And so I'm so grateful for boxing, for all the fans, for sponsors, for my team, for everything. And if I was to walk away now, I would walk away very happy and grateful. But we're not going yet. I will. My goal was to be undisputed unified champion of the world, and we're only essentially 2 fights from achieving all of that. So 3 fights: an eliminator first, a belt, and then unified all the titles. So, yeah.
It's crazy. Like, you're so right. One of the things that I think that, or I've kind of got my head around with, like, success, like being a successful person. Like, you look at you and it's like, oh, you talk to Dennis, he's this well-read guy, he's super deep, he's very intelligent about certain things, he's not just focuses on boxing, he's got all of the blah, 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 blah. He gets up and does his train, he'll train harder than anyone. All that is like, when you see a belt around a person, you just expect that.
Yeah.
But it's like, the reason he has the belt is because there was all of these challenges along the way, and instead of turning your back or living in fear or not facing it or not achieving it or giving up right before you finally did, and then it's just this accumulation of I guess phone calls from like that world champion, and you answer those calls, and then at the end of it, people are like, yeah, he done that because he's this person. And it's like, no, it's because he became this person that he got that. It's so rare that anybody that achieves anything on the level that you have was just born with all of the tools in the toolbox, and it was just like, oh yeah, they open up a drawer, there's that size spanner, put it back in, and there's no growth. You never have to add any tools. It's like, the people that get there, they've just fucking done the work to add the tools, and it's not a fun job.
Yeah, I mean, you hear a lot of successful people turn around and say, if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Yeah.
The reason why they say that is because they were once like I was. I was once a person, say, I was Irish champion, I boxed for Ireland and that, and I hit my little goals there, but I didn't even dare dream to go to the Olympics or the World Championships. I didn't even dream for it because I just felt it was so far away.
Yeah.
So that's where I was mentally. And so then I went pro because I always knew I'd be good at professional. And my grandfather said it also. He said, you have a great chin, which has stood the test of time as well. I do have a great chin. But on top of that, the day that I decided to be world champion, like really decided, I remember, I'll never forget it because I can still see myself. It was the first place I lived in Australia. It was in Newstead, and I was there, and I remember I was drinking too much. I had a lot of negative doubt going on. I had a lot of stuff going on. And I had all of this stuff happen. And I just turned around. I just got fed up of it. My grandfather was just after dying. And his last words were to me on the phone before he died, before he lost consciousness, was, give up that drink, son, and give this everything you've got. And at that point, I knew I was drinking too much as well. So after he died, it just hit me as a block one day. I remember just walking into the toilet one day, just looking at myself in the mirror, and I just went, I am the world champion, or I am going to be the world champion. And I just remember looking at myself going, I'm going to do whatever it takes now, right now. I think it was about July 2011.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do whatever it takes now.
And so where were you in your life? Like, paint the picture of your life. Like, how far away from world champion were you?
Okay, so on the amateur scene, winning an Irish title and then boxing on the Irish team, I'm winning a multi-nation gold medal, but that wouldn't really be looked at. So it's really the Olympics and the World Championships and all that kind of stuff that gets the big headlines. So look at that, no one really would have expected me to go on and do massive things in the pro game. So then anyway, I've got that going on. But after I hit my goal of being Irish champion and getting some wins, I got a good win against the American champion and in Ireland versus America. And I hit those goals, I felt good about them. But then I started to, I lost my way. I didn't have any goal to pursue anymore. It took me 10 years to win that World Championship, or the Irish Championship. 10 years. And so that was something that was going on for me. I do believe I had a most inner dominating thought that was kind of I was self-sabotaging a little bit. That's that subconscious talk, you know. But when I finally did, what I ended up doing then was I had no more goal, and I ended up partying a lot and drinking a lot and whatever else comes with that. And
did you feel like a sense of like you were drinking your own Kool-Aid in a way, like when you were in that party state, or did it come out of, like, did you feel, because you know how you see like Tyson Fury got everything that he wanted.
Yeah.
He'd sort of like reached his ceiling.
Yes.
And then there was nothing after that.
I'm glad that you said that, because up to a couple of years ago, I used to speak about Tyson Fury. I used to speak about McGregor as an indication of what happened to me on a much smaller level on my part.
Level, yeah.
Because what happened to me was, because this is when I sometimes I get I do public speaking and I talk about goal setting. So for me, the number one thing was about goals and having a goal. When I did that, I lost my goal, and when I lost my goal, I lost my way. And it was only when I went to go professional. That I set a new goal again, hence what happened to me, which I'll get back to in a second. But I will say that I made my point by talking about how Tyson Fury wanted to beat Klitschko all his life, and when he did that, after that, he had no more goals. Look what happened to him. Now he's publicly come out and spoken about the importance of goals. So I'm so glad that anyone who's heard me speak, that's all been it's like all come out now. It's all been vindicated. But I also spoke about McGregor as well, looking to be the two-time world champion and fight Mayweather and be on the Forbes rich list. He did that. Then he seemed like he lost his way for a while, and now he seems like he's coming back again. So goals is a huge one, setting a goal. So, and
then I think what's important to say there though is that the goal is a sliding scale though, because your goal was to be the Irish champion. McGregor's was to be the world champion. Tyson Fury's was to beat Klitschko. So it's like, I think that the thing that stops you setting high goals though is that self-doubt and the insecurity around that doubt.
It was.
So everybody has that same level of like insecurity around the doubt that they are experiencing. So like you can be experiencing that on the level of like, I'm too scared to go to university, or like it's where you set your ceiling for yourself. You know, like what do you think your maximum capability is? And it's like at that time you were limiting yourself to the Irish champion, you know, and fuck, I've experienced quite a lot of that self-doubt as well in my life. And it's like, that is the thing that will, you know, stop you reaching high, setting like a high ceiling, and then it sets low goals. And then once you achieve those low goals, then you don't really have a lot of purpose after that.
Yeah, I mean, so can I just say that one of my mentors, Mitch, from MJB seminars, you know, he speaks a lot about this. But before I met Mitch, Paul Keegan, who's part of DDP with Danny Dimas and all that as well, these guys have they started sponsoring me from the start and helped me with money from an early age, an early stage of my career and that. But Paul used to say, if your goals don't scare you, they're not big enough. And it was through him saying that I decided I wouldn't just be world champion, I'd be unified world champion. I mean, if I go back to that day, and it is very specific, when I go back to that day and I looked in the mirror and said that, where was I and what was I thinking? Up to that very point, I was thinking, if I got a good few wins under my belt and I fought for a continental title, that would be unbelievable. I felt like, I would be a success. And I'll also talk that back then Ireland was going through a recession, and I used to when I used to fight my mum, and people would say, "Oh, we're all rooting for you," and when there's a bit of negativity going on in a country that has bad economics going on, that when my fights come up, apparently it used to rise the vibe from a couple of people.
Yeah.
They all used to go to the pub to watch it, and I used to feel like that was Brighton, and I used to feel like I was kind of giving back then. And then I felt if I was to come home with an Australian title, a continental title, and do that, and come back to my people and have that, I would have felt like that was a major success. And it was only after my grandfather died. So I had 2 fights for 2 wins, 2 knockouts, and then I was my third one was locked in for somewhere around July. And I remember being on the phone, but back then I was still drinking a lot, because again I knew that I felt like my career would have been limited to a certain world champion. Certainly not. I wasn't a person who said that for no reason. Oh, I want to be world champion. I never said it for no reason.
Because you didn't believe it.
No. Because that wasn't what I used to do. I never said I'll be at the Olympics one day, or I'll be at the world champion in amateurs. I never said that. What I said would happen, but I didn't say it. So. Because I didn't believe it. So then anyway, I was there, and my grandfather was on the phone. My man, he was there, and after he realized, he recognised by my voice I was drinking, and this was on a weeknight, and he just because he's my biggest fan, and so he turned around, he said to me on the phone, he goes, "Give up that drink, son, and give this everything you've got." And when he gave the phone back to my mum, I remember saying, like, what was he saying that for? Like, what's going on here? Like, I sort of was a little bit angry, resentful. And then a little while afterwards, he fell sick, and then so we were all told, okay, family needs to come back, he's about to die. We went back. He didn't die, but when I was back, I was partying a lot. I kept drinking and all that, not dealing with emotions very well. I had started to use alcohol for self-medication also, as not only was my thoughts, I believe, very negative, I also had a bit of anxiety as well. So anytime anything would come up at all, I used to self-medicate with alcohol.
What sort of stuff was giving you anxiety, and how'd you deal with it, but what was like the physical implications of it?
Well, I mean, anxiety started for me back when I was... I always had many phases of anxiety, but panic attacks started for me when I was 15 years of age. Yeah. And I had my first real, full-on panic attack. And I did not know what was happening. I thought I was going mad. And
so what was the experience like? What do you remember? What happened? How it happened? How
we were at a party one night, and I was taking we were partying, let's just say.
Yeah.
And I was doing, stuff I probably shouldn't have been doing, and come the end of the next morning, I just felt a lot of pressure. I started to feel very uncomfortable, and then but really what was going on was anxiety had built. There was a lot of stress, and your body starts to feel like it can't contain it anymore. So then what it does, it breaks into fight or flight.
Yeah. It
breaks into a panic attack, where it then gets to release the energy. Okay, so what was happening for me then was I started to think that something I had ingested probably was about to kill me. And I put my hand on my heart. It was as a panic attack produces massive heart rate, and I then thought I was having a heart attack. And then from that moment, now I wasn't, and I went and I walked it off. But my head was never right for that for a few years. I started to suffer with anxiety and panic attacks, and even my own friends wouldn't have even known. A couple of my friends were there that night, but they didn't know then that I then lived with anxiety and panic attacks from that moment onwards, because I didn't want to go and talk to anybody. I didn't want to tell anyone what had happened, what I'd been doing. And so from that moment onwards, then I've always had that to deal with, but in essence now it's made me a master of my own.
It's crazy,
I can see the benefit of it now.
So why do you reckon that it took that experience to have, because this is something that when people talk about the way that certain substances and that can induce those kind of states, I'm like, man, it was already there. I think I'm like, it's not the thing that you took or the whatever. It's like that thing was like living inside you for like a long time.
Yes.
But it's not visible. Like the insecurities that I think cause anxiety and shit like that, they live in like fucking dark corners of your mind that like you don't get to explore that often, or your brain's got really fucking good at hiding them away so that you can live a life. But that life isn't the best life that you could potentially live. It's this fucking weird version of your life, and it's not until you can start finding where those little fuckers are hiding in your mind and dealing with them that you actually do progress. So it kind of makes sense what you're saying with that.
Well, I'll just tell you that up to that point, I had never. That was a psychedelic. Now, I'm pro psychedelics because of what they do. And here's the hidden gem in all of this. Before that, I used to take a lot of recreational stuff. Okay, now that stuff is, I have no interest in any of that recreational stuff. You know, like they talk about, you know, ecstasy, cocaine, all that, because all that does is just ups all the serotonin and all that, and all of a sudden when it's over, you're burnt out.
Yeah,
bad. And I was badly burnt out of that stuff for a long time. I think that mightn't have helped either. But what happened to me was I was living a life where I believe I was like all my like we all would have done that, but there's something very addictive about my personality, and it's very. You can see that.
No, I can.
You can. I can resonate.
I can relate.
And so I feel like the peace of mind I got when I took anything like that I wanted that so much that I felt like that was the main thing on my mind. And it wasn't until I took a psychedelic that showed me that night. I think that your life is going down bad here if you don't. So I'll just tell you, and this, I'm being brutally honest. I've never spoke about this before publicly, but I had gone so skinny from taking ecstasy tablets and stuff, and my eyes had gone black around, and my face had gone skinny. That my friends, some of them used to say, "Here comes death." Like my face was starting to look like that. And believe it or not, that situation actually saved my life, because then now I would, even at the thought of doing something, it would then induce fight or flight, which is a panic attack.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was times I was driving my motorbike. I had just bought a motorbike 2 days before that panic attack happened, which actually worked out quite well. That I now had a bit of freedom rather than. But anyway, I remember times where the panic attacks got so bad and crippling that I had to get off the motorbike, park it on the side of the road, and sit in the ditch.
Fuck.
Yeah, it was crippling.
And you're on the way to being a world champion now at boxing.
Yeah, but that was at the age of 16 years of age. Just got the motorbike, and that was it happened at 15, and it started happening then. But I mean, in essence, here's the positive.
You're a better dude.
The panic attacks sent me. If I don't live a healthy lifestyle, I'll start feeling anxiety. So now I'm that in tune with my body. It tells me when I feel a little bit anxious 2 days before I get a little bit sick. My body tells me all the time what's right and what's wrong by a little bit of anxiety. And it used to be. Like it came anytime I do anything that that wouldn't serve me, I would get more anxious. So it sort of keeps me on the straight and narrow all the time. Now, obviously psychedelics has been very, very beneficial for me in that, and that doesn't stir that up because it's plant medicine, really, isn't it? And so, for the majority of it, I mean, they do.
Well, for 99% of human history, it's only been considered one of the most beneficial, spiritual, religious, medical things that you could do. It's only till the 60s that this has changed.
Yeah, and I mean, there's probably plenty of reasons why they wouldn't want people, going inward and becoming fluent with who they are and what they want, and figuring out their emotions and who they are, and being able to ride the way through the world without needing a whole lot of pills from pharmacies and
buying shit.
Yeah, consumerism as well.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that then led me on another journey, finding out about plant medicines and seeing what was going on. And I know we spoke about it before, and I find it very, very interesting. And that's also been a part of my journey too.
Yeah, there's something, it's funny. So, like, we'll backtrack a bit before we get into that. I was talking to a friend of mine, super successful motherfucker, like full badass, and I wouldn't say his name. But he had a DMT experience where he's like, I did it, and he parties hard, he used to, So he used to party real fucking hard. And then he had his first psychedelic experience was with DMT. And he just wasn't in a room with people that were... It wasn't the right environment to be doing DMT for the first time and not knowing what to expect, why, like any of it, right? So he mixes it, smokes it, and just has a fucking horrendous trip. Like, just a full nightmare experience. Like, the full, like, thought he was going to die. Like, the classic, oh, it was the worst experience of my life. Guess what it did? Never fucking partied again.
Never, yeah.
And I said to him, I was like, dude, you needed it. Like, you needed, like, I can do, like, I haven't done DMT yet, but I've done a lot of mushrooms, and I can do mushrooms and, like, welcome that feeling of anxiety. And, like, I'll talk more about that first experience that I was saying before, but, like, it's not a comfortable, like, happy-go-lucky, like, it's not like a couple beers with your mates, but it's like, it's going to show you some shit that you need to do, because it creates, it's almost like a gnarly psychedelic trip creates so much, well, you feel like you're going to die at times, and you feel like it's going to last forever, and you feel like it's going to feel like this forever, but then it makes you, it like forces you to think about all of the things that aren't right in your life that you kind of wish you could change before you died. It all just floods over you. And I mean, my experience with the mushrooms, the first time I took mushrooms was, I was in like a bar sort of setting. We'd kind of planned to go to the beach. It didn't really happen. So we kind of got stuck in this bar. I was with a bunch of strangers, and I went from feeling like euphoric and happy when I was with my friends in like the small sort of setting to just like crazy. It probably was anxiety, but it was more to me. I was just like, I'm so uncomfortable. Like, I want this to stop. I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to be with these people anymore. It was fucking the most intense feeling of that. But the logical part of my brain that was still like me and fucking in control was going like, dude, you're on mushrooms. Just fucking sit down and just deal with it. Like, this is the shit you got to go through. Because I think it's the same with weed. Is this when weed is kind of gets you to that point where it's a psychedelic, basically. Yeah. Like, for me, I know that you're not into it, but for me, when I smoke like a lot of weed, I get that same kind of feeling. All the anxieties build up, all of that shit, and I've got to fucking buckle down the hatches and like mentally process what I'm feeling about myself. Yeah. But so I did that with these mushrooms, and I'm in that state and like kind of really fighting it. And then I had that realization that I spoke about earlier, that one of my, like, if people talk to me, they're like, oh, you're super outgoing, extroverted, like you love talking, and obviously I fucking have a podcast, but it's like, I don't necessarily identify with that dude, and that version of me is the one that I'm ashamed of, and I've got a lot of, I think that there's a lot of ego in that person, and it's almost like that's a separate, that extroverted me is like one separate version, and then that's a version that I've got a lot of shame about, kind of being that person. Yeah. And then
that's layered, isn't it? I mean,
it's so crazy.
I just wanted to say, like what you're saying, it's like, okay, so your perception of what you thought people were was actually the person you felt like you needed to be, but then by acting like that, it gave you guilt and shame. Yeah. So it's just
because I felt like I have charisma. Like, I'm a charismatic person. I'm good at conversations. I like to tell stories. The same thing we said about Andrew, how he's a great storyteller. Yep. I have a little bit of that. And it's like, then when people know you, they expect that. So my thing and I never knew any of this. And like I said before, I couldn't have explained this until I did mushrooms. That I felt a pressure and a responsibility that was me. Like, I was identified with by other people as that person. And if I wasn't that person, then people would go, what's wrong, man? What's up? Are you all good? And then I'm like, fuck, am I all good? Yeah. And then you start to question the version of you that wants to be alone and wants to be isolated and wants to be by yourself. And then you start associating that person as being a negative person. And then this person that you don't really like being that much as the right person to be, but then you feel guilty about being that person. So I was just fucking out of whack. It wasn't in center or in line at all. The way I felt about myself, the way that I acted. The two versions of me were very conflicted, and then that person that people expected me to be was way over here.
So let me ask you, how did you find a balance in that, and what did you do actively, and now is it all sorted?
Nah, I just think that it's one of those things where it's like, it's probably never going to be all the way sorted, but I feel so much more comfortable locking myself in there and being by myself. I don't have to talk to anyone. I don't feel as much pressure. Like, I was even the kind of guy, actually that book too, there's a lot in that book about that. I was a bit of a yes man to people because I felt that pressure and I felt that guilt to like be a certain person. Oh, we're going out tonight, Jace, come and have a beer. Oh yeah, fuck it, alright. And then you put your mask on and then you go out and then you be that guy and you're telling stories and you're fucking carrying on, and then you come home and then you're kind of ashamed that fuck, you were just that dickhead that you don't really like that much. So, but now I just think, like I sort of was saying before even, it's like, I think just the fact that I'm aware of it, it's like that was a thing that was causing me anxiety in my life and unrest with myself and making me feel out of whack. But just knowing it and accepting it, and I got shown that with this mushroom trip. I got shown that person, I got shown all of those facts, and then I was like, fuck, that's not that bad. It's not that that's not that bad of a problem.
It's just we're shining the light on it and acknowledging it. Now lets you know that you've got power over that now. That's no longer controlling you. You can control this however you want to, which then frees you up completely. Yeah.
And then now, like, even with this podcast, like, I say dumb shit on here every fucking episode that I wish I didn't say. But it's like I force myself to put it out. I force myself not to edit it. And it just feels like I have an easier, like, manual override switch when it comes to feeling those shitty feelings that I don't like. I'm just like, you know what? Fuck it. Whatever. And then it sort of circles back to that future self stuff that we were even talking about. Kind of has helped me act like the person I want to be. Like, I want to be, like, every morning I get up, I read for an hour. That's just me. Like, I want to be that dude. And I'm so fine with telling everybody to, like, hey, I'm reading, like, all good. If, you know, someone wants my attention or that, I'm like, nah, this is, like, that's my thing. And it's just like, I don't know, it's almost like made me feel okay about it. And to think too, like, a lot of the times the things that we're really insecure about, it's just like projections of what you think other people think of you.
I was talking about this at the weekend to a guy. I said, do you know who you are? And he said, who? I said, you are right now who you think I think you are. And we just had a little bit of a conversation about that. And I think that is, regardless of where you... If I'm sitting here with you, I know that you've invited me here. So I sort of feel welcome and I sort of feel, you know, a little bit empowered to speak and talk about my story. If I walk in somewhere over there where a guy's calling me in because I've crashed into his car outside, I now think I'm the guy who can't drive, and you change your identity based on each person that you're around. Do you find that? Do you feel like that's it?
Well, I think too that something I've been speaking a little bit about lately, that I think that we're just, all we are is the reflections. Like, you're a reflection of me. Like, the way, and the reason that I say this is I did a podcast with Greg Rust. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's like a commentator for like Bathurst and all like the big car racing events and all the big motorsport stuff. And there's a tone, there's like a thing I can hear in my voice when I'm like happy with myself. And it's like with him, it just was there. And I'm looking, I'm like, that's just a reflect, like, for whatever reason, like, the reflection that I was getting back from him of myself was like, that's the version of myself that I kind of wanted to be. So I think that what happens in life is that you kind of go through, and all of the interactions you have with all of these people, they'll stir up certain emotions from you, whether it's, you know, your mum complaining about something, you'll be like, oh, you get like that feeling, but that's a feeling that's kind of lives within you. It's not necessarily got anything to do with her. It's like the feeling that you're getting that reflection back. And then I think that that's kind of a reason why we look to people like, you know, President Obama or something like that. It's like people that are so far on that level where like everybody in the world knows about that person. Like, they've got more reflections of who they are coming back at them than like anybody else. Than if you're a hermit.
Never thought of that, eh?
Yeah, it's something I've been thinking about lately because of this. Like more people know about me than ever before, and it's a fucking weird thing. And it's the same as you. You've met so many people, and they give you this reflection of like who you are in the world versus who you are internally. And it's like you kind of get more data to process. You've got more information, and then you can either like let that. I think you can let that go a number of ways in terms of how you use that energy. Like, do you become a person that's like drinking the Kool-Aid and like going off the rails and thinking you're fucking better than you really are, or are you using that for like really positive introspective reasons that kind of does what it's done for you, like pushes you forward to be like a really good version of yourself. Like the 20 minutes where we were talking before this, I'm like, fuck, Dennis has like processes in place in his life that have like allowed him to think and feel and act a certain way. Like I agree with everything that you said, and I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. But you've done the work to like seek out those principles, and then done the harder work of living by those principles. And
that's the thing with psychedelics too. What it shows you, you must go and do the work, and you must live by that. And it's the same with the personal development that I do, and that's the personal development that I've done is I've spent so many hours and a lot of money in terms of everything, and it's like, you know, well, it's all a waste if you don't go live that stuff. But I was just so ready for change, you know. I have 3 main mentors right now that I go to for stuff, and I mean, the first main one was Mitch from MJB Seminars, who we went and we did that. And as I told you about before, we did something called the Quantum Collapse Process by Dr. D. Martini, and then that was on a paper form, and then Mitch developed it into a face-to-face. And that had such a profound effect on me. So we're all running around with a most inner dominating thought. And what that most inner dominating thought is actually manifesting our reality. Not just through the law of attraction, but well, how we feel about ourselves. Our reticular activating system is putting that out there. So everything that comes back to us is a vision of how we're feeling about ourselves. But not just that as well, the actions that we take and everything that goes on. Like I've seen for myself, it took me 10 years to become the Irish champion. This is crazy. One of the years, I'd already beaten the favourite in the quarterfinals. I was coming in to box the guy in the semi-finals. Now I was now the favourite, and one of my friends shows up, says my brother's got a bit of hash, which is kind of like weed, in his apartment. Do you want to go smoke some? Okay, let's go. Before I knew it, we got back there, we smoked it, and then we couldn't find our way back. His dad had to pick us up, bring us back. I was back just in time to get ready for this fight, and then I lose by a couple of points. So if that's not self-sabotage, I don't know what is. And I found that in throughout my life, I self-sabotage quite a lot. Like that's what got me in terms of all this stuff. Like say for example, the fight that I went to Germany for my first world title fight. We'd gone over there, okay, and we was ready to go. I was boxing out of my skin, and next thing the fight got postponed about, I think, 6 days out or so, or maybe it was 8 days out. And so we came back to Australia, and Jeff was getting ready for his fight against the European champion, and I start sparring with Jeff right back into 10-round spars, and I kept training. Within 5 weeks of going back to Germany, I had hit this crazy wall of fatigue. It's nobody's fault but my own, but I should have pulled up. What was going on there that I did that? Now we went to.
Were you like fearful of, like, because it's like you can kind of use that kind of like just knuckle down, blinders on, train to like, you know, obviously like block out some kind of thing that you were feeling about, you know, because I think people are sometimes scared of their potential. Where you're going with this, People are scared of their potential, I think. And it's like, that's one of the things that, like, I've struggled with the fact that I felt like I've been talented at so many things and I've done well at so many things, but I've never taken anything all the way. It's like I only ever took something as far as to where people would, when I chose to stop on my own accord, people still had enough faith in my potential that they're like, he could have really done that if he tried. But then you get to like a tipping point, which is where you are, where it's like people know right now you could be the world champion. Like you could be, right now. You could be that potential exists.
Yeah.
And now that sets up a scary fucking proposition in your own heart and mind where it's like, what if I don't? What if I, and I think that that's sometimes where that self-sabotage stuff comes in, is like everybody's got a little bit of that, but it's like you've said, you've now detached from that feeling, from the need. And then it's like, and then it just lets you live. Just lets
me live. And one of the things that I realized too is I enjoy the process. So I'm winning regardless of whether I'm winning or losing. And I think that everything that happened after the last one, what I was just speaking to you about, what happened in Germany, happened again to another degree for this one. We had to go over for a press conference. If I had to fly to New York 7 days out from a middleweight world championship fight.
Fuck that.
Yeah, I know. I tried to say no, but now...
Couldn't you have just stayed?
Well, there was something on the agreement saying if you don't complete your media obligations, you could forfeit a third of your...
Oh, but what about staying in New York for the whole 7 days? Not coming
at that
back
point,
home?
It wasn't going to work. It all happened too quick. It was like, oh, you need to go, and then so I fought a little bit. I was trying to say, can you do anything? And they said, but listen, it didn't work, and I ended up going. But I got myself to a mindset of, it doesn't matter what comes, I can do it. Even I did try to not go, but then after I was like, I'm going to win this anyway. This is I know World Championship is my destiny. I know it is, because I see it so much and I feel it so much, and I don't believe something can come in to your mind and feel it that deeply, well, without, and it's already shown up in terms of discipline, determination, skill. Everything is there, right, that I need. I just need to even more so tune into the frequency. So that's law of conservation. Anything your law of conservation, which is energy cannot be created or destroyed. So if you can bring it up and you can tune into the frequency, everything is already around you, believe it or not. So, and if it's not far away. So if you just tune into any frequency, you can get anything you want. And I live by that, and I truly know it and believe it. But I did learn so much. Like after the Germany loss, I learned so much. After the Charlo loss, man, I thought I'd learned everything there was to learn. That's 7 key elements that I've learned that make me a much better fighter, and when I'm finished fighting, it's going to make me an unbelievable coach as well. Because I on top of my boxing career, I'm looking forward to being a coach, because there's no situation that I haven't been in, and I know that I just feel I've become good at communicating with people also.
Well, I think too, like, you're not any I think the reason you're good at communicating with people is because you're very open and honest about your own experiences and your own, to talk about panic attacks and the insecurity. Like, that's a very, very confident person, and a person that's very, it's very believable when you can go like, fuck, like, you can't really make this shit up. You can't fake these kind of, that you can't fake that kind of honesty. And I think that any good coach or leader or anybody that had, like, I guess people can like look up to in a way, it's sort of, they all have that quality. I think. You gotta,
you gotta believe it. Like you gotta genuinity is one of the things these days. Someone's being genuine, and someone that opens up about these types of things kind of shows that a little bit more. But my space and my circle right now is just it's just people like that, and that's what I need right now as well. I also need that, like you hear, big podcast was Conor McGregor talking to Tony Robbins. But mate, like, I somehow feel connected to him in some way, because a lot of stuff that he goes through, I've gone through too. Like he was talking about communication in his team, and that was something that this last fight has brought up a lot, where my strength coach and my boxing coach are now in communication every day. And that was something that I knew, and McGregor said, like, stuff that you already know you should be doing, but you're not. And so, because at that point you sort of feel like, right, well, I'm doing so much already, and your intuition is telling you something else, but you're like, I don't even have time for that. And then when you go along and you have a loss, but it's not just a loss like that. It was actually what happened in camp. I'm not even going to talk about the loss, because Charlo's a machine. I'm not making any excuses. But for the camp to roll out like it did, and for me to get a hip injury like 12 days out from the fight, and with the other injuries that I was carrying as well, and then the little bit of fatigue that I was getting as well, it's sort of like it's an eye-opener. And so some of the things that I knew that I should have been doing, I wasn't really like some of those things that I should have pulled back on. I should have communicated with my coaches and said, right, I feel like my legs are feeling worse than they've ever felt. Maybe we need to pull it back a little bit to freshen up better. And then there's all of that. But I don't know if it's ego or whether it's the positive that's got me to where I am today. But I just went, I can overcome this. This adversary will lead to my success. That's what I thought. And now I'm sitting back afterwards, sitting there like going, okay, now I need to just bring everything up. So now we've now decided to stay in a loop of communication every day. I now wear a heart rate monitor which shows how much I'm in the red, because I train for 2.5 hours boxing every day. Most guys can get in and get the work done within an hour, so I do a lot of work. I've got a massive ticker and determination, and so that can be my downfall sometimes, where you've got other guys who can sort of be lazy, but it works out for them, because then they're not tired. Michael Carruth, who won a gold medal at the Olympics in Barcelona in 1992, his dad Austin Carruth brought me onto the Irish boxing team one day. I'll never forget it. But Austin was a beautiful man, and he told me one day, he said, you're better off to be underdone than overdone. And I didn't really understand that back then, because it was amateur, it was 3 rounds, but now it's ringing in my head.
So what was that experience like when he brought you in? So what was that to like spar?
So what happened was the Irish squad team training was going on every Saturday. You'd have Katie Taylor there, you'd have Ross Hickey from my club, you'd have Eric Donovan, you'd have some Joyces in there, you'd have like the cream of the crop would be in there for spars, you know.
What's the Joyces thing? Andrew was telling me, I'm the king of the Joyces.
Oh yeah, the king of the travellers, yeah. But his son, Big Davey, who I've known, I've actually done some rounds with. I used to lie heavyweight. I used to spar with the heavyweights. I've sparred with Sean Turner, Niall Kennedy, all those heavyweights that are out there now. So Jimmy Sweeney, I used to spar with those boys because I was like heavyweight. But I sparred with Joe one day just for a round and a half, I think it was, and then he changed over for a round and a half. You get 3 rounds done. And so I was chatting to him, like, a nice guy, but he was the guy that done a video to do the fight bucket, fight videos, and they love to slag each other. The slagging is hilarious, but he just calls this guy a shite in the bucket. You know, you're a shit. From now on, we call you shite in the bucket. So, but it's a lot of fun, and Cleary can imitate these guys absolutely perfectly. Yeah,
he had me in stitches the other night.
Yeah, it's brilliant. But
so you're in the. He brings you into the gym.
So anyway, I come in. I was meant to. So there's a guy that I'd boxed in the Irish Championships called Sean Shevlin. He was up there training, and I had just come back from Australia. I'd done a year backpacking, and I needed some spars, and so we organised having a spar with Sean. I said, we'll come up Saturday. So I got in anyway, and Sean wasn't there, but some other guy was. Some guy, Terry O'Neill, who had just won an international medal, a gold medal abroad. And I got in a spar with him, and I actually had a really, really good spar. I think that guy Terry is an actor now in Dublin, but he's acting. And so anyway, I had a great spar with him, and Austin comes down to me, mate. I just couldn't believe the words he said. He came up to me and he said, that's great work, Dennis. I want you to go up now, get measured for an Irish tracksuit, and get your passport validated, because you just made the Irish team. Wow. I was like, wow.
That's crazy.
Wow. I know. And I was only going up that day to get a spar. I asked, could I get a spar that day? And then all of a sudden, I'm on the Irish team. I've got my trackie, and from that point onwards, then I was getting Irish internationals, boxed over in Spain, boxed lots of different places, multi-nations gold medal over in Israel, and boxed my last fight. I got a win against the Ukrainian champion. Yeah, right. Lithuanian or Ukrainian, but I'd beaten both either way in some way or another. But I just tell you a funny one. I was boxing at a junior intermediate level, and then they asked me, do you want to box senior against in an international, my first senior like elite boxing for Ireland. I was like, yeah, let's do it. Brilliant. Okay. It's against Russia. I said, okay, yeah, no worries. So I was like, okay, that was great how I got the call up there. Very good. Yeah. So I got up anyway, and I got in against this guy, right? You know, beforehand, there's a little bit of eyeballing going on and all. This guy was over in the corner like this. Right? He walks to the centre of the ring, barely looking at me, just does this, and I could just feel in his hands. I was like, has he got rocks in those gloves? He walked back, and next thing we start boxing. Now, he was no better than I was, but my eye was out to here, my teeth were loose, all under here was cut, all my jaws were swollen, and just before the end of the fight, the referee stopped it because this lump had gone out too high, and I was concussed. And even when the referee stopped the fight, like I was still, and I'll never forget. I'll never forget the feeling of my first time being concussed, because the next day I went out for a few beers or whatever, and I ended up back in a party with, wasn't even my friends, weren't even there. It was relations of my friends.
Really?
And and I was like, how did I even end up back here? I can't even remember the night or nothing. Apparently I was pretty drunk, but I was concussed. But but that'll just tell you. And so that was my first step up into senior international against a Russian guy, and I just thought, I remember
Russians are no fucking joke, bro.
Mate, they are no joke. They can really punch, and I just, you know,
they're just a fucking hard people.
Hard people.
The chicks are gnarly.
Yeah.
The fucking dudes are gnarly. Yeah. They're fucking gnarly.
Yeah, they are, and they're strong. Whatever's in their genes, man. I just felt like I said after, I said, I wonder what was he eating, because those shots didn't feel normal. I still never felt that heavy-handedness again.
Really?
I felt the knockout power from Charlo, the knockdown power, that fast twitch, which it butts your head across, it hits your brain. But I still haven't felt that heavy-handedness just crushing into your bone and your skin. It was like, and my tooth was loose, like, so.
Really?
Yeah.
How does that fuck with your head halfway through a fight and you know your teeth are out?
No, I didn't really realise that till after, but I knew that all under here was all crushed. It was all crushed. It was all just flesh floating around in there. But do
you have a lot of scarring on the inside of your mouth?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Oh, because I got heaps of fucking like big lumps inside my mouth from like fights at school.
Yeah.
And I used to have braces, so like all inside my gums when I got fucking punched, it just like fucked up all inside on my lips. Yeah. And now like even, it was literally just before, actually, it's the first time I'd done it in ages, but I can like bite sometimes and that fucking scar tissue, like the big lumps of flesh on the inside, just I fucking bite them and they get worse. Yeah. I wondered if that's like a common boxing thing.
Yeah. Now that you say it, there's a couple at the bottom here but the gum shield goes across the top, so you're okay from there.
Because I've had fights with
like sharp teeth down here.
Yeah, like I got big ones under there because my teeth have gone through my fucking lip from like being punched.
Actually have gone,
Not all the way through, but
through.
You know what I mean, like big. So I wondered, but it makes sense because like in a like street fights, you don't have fucking gum shields on, so you're just getting cut up everywhere.
I mean, that's the thing. Like if I'm up there boxing and someone doesn't bring their gum shields or what they call them mouth protectors here, I don't want to spar them at all, and I don't want to get in there and do that. Not now. Not when you see how much work it takes to fix teeth and everything else.
I'm the same with my mouth guard. I'm like, fuck no.
Yeah. Just mouth protector always. But So that was
that must have been a crazy feeling to get onto the Irish boxing team, because Ireland is such a proud boxing nation, even though, has there been too many world boxing champions from Ireland? Like, has there been a lot of them in the past?
Yeah, there's been a lot, I mean, you've got... It's a proud nation. Very proud boxing. I mean, that's the thing. Like a lot of people be like, you could go back to Ireland now, because in Ireland people notice me everywhere.
Yeah. Like, you'd be huge in Ireland.
Yeah. Like I always.
There's only 12 of you.
12 of me, Paddy, Mick, and so if like I mean, in terms if fame was a big thing for me, that's where I'd want to be.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I do enjoy still the fact that I can go for a walk with people, and some people say hello and whatever else. The odd person shout out the car, which I always find funny. But generally, other than that, I can have family time, and we can just be us. And
do you reckon it'd be a lot different if you're in Ireland?
I still think I get to do what I needed to do and get around quite well, but I just feel like I'd feel more eyes on me.
I do.
I have been in places like it's the funniest thing where you're getting your hair cut or you're just getting something to eat somewhere, and you just see someone pull out the phone and you see them doing this and looking up at you, and then you just going like this, and then doing that to the person that's beside them and looking at and then they look at you, and then they look back, and you know that they've gone, is it him? It looks like him. It's either fucking Dennis, Conor McGregor, or Andrew Cleary. It's one or the other.
Oh, you fuckers do look the same.
And even my mate Johnny Webb, he looks the same as me now as well. We all the red beards, mate. But I'd like to say, I'll put it out here, I had that beard before McGregor famously sported it. Me and my cousin, I had got a neck injury in 2012, and he was growing his hair long. It had gone a bit long. He was due a haircut, and we said something that if he keeps growing his hair, I'll grow out the beard. And we had a contest which would go the longest, and that's how it started. And then before I know it, then I think McGregor's trend started. Everybody growing beards, and
fucking mad what he did for Ireland, dude.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It's fucking crazy the effect he had on Ireland. It seems like you can't be... I mean, it's probably like a shit thing in a way. Like, you almost can't be Irish and not talk about Conor McGregor. It's like just this fucking big of an island.
Yeah.
And it's just like produced one of the most famous people on the planet.
Notorious.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah, I
but
know.
the thing with Irish people, like, he's a real good representative of like me and Cleary hang out. I'm fucking hanging out with the same, you know, that's like he's a Conor McGregor sort of style of guy.
Sometimes I walk
hanging
away.
out with you.
Yeah.
You're a kind of, you know, there's an Irish energy that he fucking embodies. And it's like, I'm glad that for a megastar to come out of Ireland, he really represents the spirit and the humor and the culture of Irish people, because like I feel like I know him through knowing you and Clear. You know what I mean? There's an embodiment of the Irish spirit, and it's like that he's brought that spirit onto a real global scale.
Yeah, and people enjoy it, which actually says a lot about our people, and I really appreciate you saying that too. But I mean, it just I never realised how alike Irish people actually are, right? When I've come over here, I've lived here for a few years, someone like that bursts onto the scene, because he has Foggy Dew, it's called, by Sinead O'Connor. It's a real eerie version at the start of his walkout, and then in kicks Biggie Smalls.
Yep.
But since the end of 2011, I actually had the exact same thing at the start of my song, but not from Sinead O'Connor, but from the Wolf Tones.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how similar are we to actually find that war song to get us in the zone, and then we walk out to it?
You're channeling that Irish spirit.
We channel the Irish spirit, and a lot of stuff that we say, like, you know, like even who the fuck is that guy?
Yeah.
That's stuff that every single one of us actually say.
Yeah.
And a lot of the sayings that he's famous for, we actually go around saying. And then because it's so funny, because I now refrain from saying some stuff that he would say.
But it's like part of your natural...
For fear of of people thinking, wanting to copy him.
But that's your natural shit.
That's our natural shit.
I first noticed that with Andrew.
Yeah.
So like, I met Andrew in Thailand, and we were hanging out, and I'm like, I'm fucking with Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
But with Andrew, there's nothing fake about him at all.
Nothing.
So like, you're with this dude, and instantly, bro, we were boys instantly. Like, he had a spliff there. Like, I got off the plane, he's like, you smoke a bit of weed, do you? And I was like, I do. 5 seconds in the fight, and we're walking down a street in Thailand, and you knew that it was just like, there's no fucking fake bullshit with him. So then you hear the stuff that he says that sounds like McGregor, and I'm like, McGregor's just a fucking Irish dude.
Yeah.
Because here I'm hanging out with him, and then I would like hang out with you and Andrew. Like, we were just at one of his mates' place that he trains with in Melbourne. I was there last week for the F1, and I'm like, that's him as well. Like, it's just, there's that Irish, and who the fuck has a guy like an Irish mate in Australia where you're like, God, he's a fuckhead. Like, everyone loves their Irish mate. And it's like Andrew said, there's an Irish pub in every town. There's something about the culture of the Irish people that fucking resonates with everybody.
It's the crack. You know the crack.
Have the crack, yeah.
Just have the fun. Like, I've even found, my cousin Mark lives here. He's a plumber.
Is that a Gaelic word? Sorry.
Which? The crack. Yeah. It's CRAIC, which is like an Irish saying. It's not. And
like me and Andrew, we text that to each other all the time. We'll be like, "What's the crack?" And I'll be like, "Oh, I'll pop over. We'll have the crack." Yeah, like I've adopted that when I talk to him. Yeah.
I mean, I'll be down at boxing hours. People will come down and watch a spar.
And
they'll say whatever, and I'll go, "Oh, it was good crack," and I'll say it was a lot of fun, and and they're like, "Oh, okay," because they wouldn't understand what it is. But I'll also say, in what you're saying there, I've got a cousin here, Mark White, and one of the things that I noticed about him was he used to he had a lot of guys like from playing football and all that, but you'd see these guys coming and so they're all normal dudes. But within spending half an hour with him, especially when there was a few beers flowing, everybody was acting like idiots and having the crack and having fun. And he just had this ability to just get everyone to start messing badly. And I just feel like that's probably the Irish way, It
is.
Once business is done, let's have fun now and let's have the crack. So
it is. It's crazy that that's so like a part of what made Conor successful. And I just think, to me, it's like, it's less about him individually as what it says about the Irish people.
Yeah.
And it's like, he fucking has that Irish flag, and like it. I haven't had close Irish mates until I was close mates with Andrew.
Yeah.
He's like my first real Irish friend. And it's like, I can't wait for his fucking wedding.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be all the fuck. He's like, oh, it'll be some crack, you know? And it's like, it fucking will be, because there's a bunch of you cunts there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is that fucking crazy spirit. Do you know where the crack comes from? Like that term? Like what it actually... Is it just a Irish word, or does it come from something?
Oh, listen, I don't really know. All I know is, like, that's how we used to greet each other. What's the crack?
Yeah.
You know, and you know, and then the crack was great last night. Before I knew it, everything was the crack. But yeah, I mean, there's a real sense about us of wanting to have fun, and I think that obviously comes from the hardships that Ireland's have. We don't even talk about. We just put it to the side and we just have the crack, and that's all it is. And that's why the crack is so strong in us, because anything that goes on in our lives,
it's like the Force for the Jedi.
It is, yeah, it is. But anything that goes on, right, you just go have the crack now, and that'll sort everything out. That's what it feels like to me, anyway.
Yeah.
You
So
know?
you think it did come from like the oppression that the Irish people were put under?
I feel like that. Yeah, I feel like that's who has made us so determined in our fields when it comes to professionalism. And I feel that determination and that real gravel in your gut, spit in your eye sort of thing, I think that came from there as well. Because there was a lot of stuff, even just not long ago. There was a lot of hardships, and I feel like it's also the key of a lot of people feeling low self-worth and not good enough. Because you imagine, right? You imagine a lot of, maybe that's where a lot of athletes fall over at the last minute as well, you know. But it happens in every country too. But you've got a country there that all of a sudden just becomes, other people come in, they invade it, and next thing all of a sudden it's not yours anymore, and you're not even allowed to speak your own language anymore. You're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do that, you're not allowed to play your own national sport, and then all of a sudden, what does that do to the general population's self-worth?
Yeah.
You know, they start to feel not good enough, and then that starts to resonate, and then that starts to get passed down, and then, you know, all this stuff, all these weird things that all Europeans have it, I think, about money. You know, we all feel like, oh, money's hard come by and all of this, and then we find it hard to manifest money because we have this really weird feel. So used to it, and feeling like, you know, that's how the other half lives. You know that saying? Yeah. You know, that's the worst thing you can put out, you know, if you're looking to manifest wealth. You know, you got to really be able to vibrate what it is to have that stuff. And we're just not brought up that way. And so I think that a lot of our past has a lot to do with that. But I think right now is the time of awakening. And what I've learned myself, even in the last few years alone, I feel like anybody can learn, especially coming the next generation. So I think the tides are turning.
Yeah, for sure it is, man. Like, even the fact that people will be sitting in their cars right now listening to this, or sitting in a subway in fucking, you know, New York or wherever they are, or listening to it from Ireland. It's like, people are so into hearing about this kind of stuff. It wasn't spoken about. And even, you know, growing up in Ireland in like your time, I'm sure when you were a kid, it would have been such a different mentality. Like, even with me, I think a lot of stuff that I've got in terms of like success or wanting to be, I guess like that ego shit that I was saying, like I would associate that with ego, because you were sort of told like, don't do that, don't think like this, put your head down, just get a good job, just get a good wife, just get this. Like, the ceiling was so low for people, because I think that there was just that expectation, we're a poor people, you know, like we're an oppressed people, just get through this, life's hard enough without wanting more. It's hard enough just to have this. But it's like, if you don't want more than this, you're only ever going to have this. Yeah. You know?
There's sayings in Ireland, right, man? It's like, you know, they say it here, oh, that fella has tickets on himself, or in Ireland, that fella has notions. Have you heard that one?
Nah.
What notions means? He's got grand notions of himself. Yeah. No, just notions about himself.
Yeah, right.
Just that he thinks he's better than you.
Yeah.
And so the funny thing about it is when I've weighed through my boxing career, and when I go home to see people and everything else, I really try to find a fine line between not being who I am in terms of proud of my achievement and success and everything else, and then not to be perceived like I have notions.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know I know at least I believe. I know life has humbled me, so I must be humble.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know that.
That's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah, because just to come out of nowhere and say I'm humble probably doesn't really, but life has humbled me, so I don't think I give off that idea. And
that's a great concept.
Yeah, well, and so I used to always, because before I left for Australia, I used to find how I lowered what I was I used to, like, if someone said to me, Hogan, you had a great win last weekend, I'd have to say something like, yeah, but I got very tired in the last round and he hurt me there in the second. Why did I have to make it worse than it was?
Mate, I still say that about shit.
Yeah. I caught myself doing it.
I find it so, especially now, this thing is what's really fucking made me realise that shit, is that people will be like, oh, yeah, you're doing this and this, you did, and I'll like, oh yeah, it's a fucking grind, but like you naturally always play shit down. It's so hard for me to accept a compliment.
Wouldn't you love to turn around and say, yeah, it's going really well, I'm actually doing what I love, we're about to,
but if you do say
sponsors
that,
trying to get in the door here and I'm only picking out the sponsors that I want, and life is great, and then
you can't say that.
Do you feel like there's certain people that would be delighted, like if someone spoke to me like that, I'm like, man, what did you do? I want to know what you did.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of other people that just go, oh,
but that's what
notions.
That's what my friends are like. I can call Cleary and say, fuck bro, wouldn't believe this has happened, fucking check this out, this is who messaged me, and I don't have that feeling of, and maybe it's that reflections thing, it's like I don't have that feeling coming back to me as I've got notions. I'm just telling my fucking friend that fuck, it's working, bro. Like I'm working my ass off and it's happening, and he'll call me and be like, oh, I just got this job. And it's the same with like all my real close friends, man. I talk to them about my successes and my ideas and my like things that I want and things that I'm getting. I talk to those people about that because I don't feel like I get any of that judgment. But man, there's been people in my life, and even like close people in my life, that I've had to just let go of recently. And because it's like, mate, I can't be fucking dealing with like having to feel like I can't say how I'm feeling about myself and how I feel about the things that I'm setting out to achieve, and I'm one step closer, and I'm this just happened and this has been a fucking big goal. I'm weeding out those people, man. Like if you can't accept that, like I'm trying to be something and like achieve goals and that I'm like passionate about and that I love what I do, or if I got to feel guilty. This is another one, is like if I've got to feel guilty because you're not out there achieving your fucking dreams, I got to be guilty about mine. No thanks, man. I want to be around motherfuckers that are out there doing their shit.
Yeah, I mean that's right. And if you want to know who those people are, all you got to do is just say, if I have a failure, who do you think will like hearing that the most? And you almost know the people who would be like, oh, you'll be all right, man. But you know that they're like good stuff. And but I can always see who those people are and why they're like that is because they've had they just have their own insecurities because they've not done it yet. Yeah. But here's the thing, I just feel like you do have to cut that circle smaller, but also while you're out, but you can also know you can still keep giving back to them. You don't have to feel bad because they're now not in your life anymore. You can still feel good because you're still out there doing your thing, and they're seeing that, and by them seeing you do that, you're allowing them the permission to go do it for themselves. So you're still helping them even though you're not in the same boat. You know what I mean? So that's how I feel about it all. And it's like the whole thing, man. If someone's successful, I'm just like, what did you do? Well, there's many successful people in my area, and I grill them, and I've asked them the same questions a couple of times, and I love some of the answers that I get. And starting off as a boxer, you need to get some sponsors on board and stuff like that, and that's good. But once I had what I needed, I've had other successful people around that I could have pitched for sponsorship and this, that, the other. But I don't want it. I just want to. I want your knowledge. Yeah. I want to ask you questions here and there. I don't want you thinking that I want money now. I'm very grateful for the sponsors that I have and all, and even them I was getting lots of knowledge from as well. They actually got me onto the speaking, got me to speak at their conferences, which then allowed me then to go off and pursue my own public speaking career. But if you can just get little nuggets from people here or there, like just ask them the simplest things, like what information, what knowledge, what advice would you have for, say, a 30-year-old you right now?
Yeah.
Or what was the most profound thing that ever happened to you? Or just little questions like that, man, and you just get nuggets.
Yeah.
And I find that it's always intrinsically linked, always, to success and what other people will tell you. There's never something that comes really out of the blue. You know what I mean? So so then you kind of know you're on track as well. So.
Yeah, that's that thing that I was saying is like you there's like those stereotypes of like, oh, he'll run 5 miles first thing in the morning. He's so disciplined with his diet. He'll do 2.5 hour sessions when other guys will do 1. And it's like, you're just not fucking born with that. Like it's all a part of this process. But then when you link that to being successful, you're like, oh yeah, that just makes sense. But like there's a point in time. That's why I love like to go back to Conor. And if there was cameras around you, it'd be the fucking exact same. But there's like those things where he's young and he's got that shaved head and he's fucking got pimples all over his face and he's still fucking Conor McGregor.
Yep.
He's not been different. Like in terms of him, you can see him in that person. You can see the Conor McGregor that was fucking walking in Brooklyn going like this with a mink coat on. You can see that motherfucker in that kid.
He's still there,
He's always been that guy, and it's just been this constant thing to like achieve what he has.
So I'll tell you a little story, and I actually wouldn't mind. I was on a podcast at the start of the week called Duality and the Dealer as well, and I actually spoke about the same thing. But my brother has a sports nutrition company called Big Shot Sports Nutrition down in Portlaoise, and he sponsored me some stuff. And he also said to me, he goes, we have this MMA fighter called Conor. He has he's got the exact same law of attraction. That's where I was at back then. Yeah. It's manifested itself into something huge, much bigger now with all techniques and what you do and all. But back then, and so I looked at this video and it was McGregor, and he was talking about his second world title fight or something like that. How he got injured, and he was talking about law of attraction, or the other guy got injured. And I'm like, wow, Jesus, it is that he's speaking of law of attraction. Then we added each other on Facebook, and I seen him speak about law of attraction and all that. But my brother told me, like, I used to go down and pick up, I think it was creatine, something else, some kind of like fat burners, and a protein once every month or something like that. And so that was my little sponsorship, and I was sponsored by them. They had a poster of me, and they had a poster of me in the window, and a poster of McGregor in the window. One of McGregor doing that, like, or something. But he told me, my brother told me, he said McGregor, after getting sponsored a bit of protein, within like a month or two, he just went, actually, hold on, if I get 6 tubs of this and I sell this, can I get more of this? And so the businessman was inside in front of it. I was just happy to get that and move away. Right. But the businessman has always been in Conor McGregor from very early doors, before he even knew he could get to the UFC, before he was even in the UFC. The businessman was there, the man who thinks money, who thinks ahead. So I think that's very interesting to see and know that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
it is, man.
Yeah.
Because like you look at Proper 12 now, he probably had a Proper 12 vision before he was even a professional fighter.
Yeah, I reckon.
Like if you asked him, he probably would say, "Oh, me drink like there's a bottle of Jameson right there. Like that's Irish whiskey."
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah. Who knows if it will be like the first thing that you think of with Irish whiskey one day? Because he's fucking killing it.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're right. That person, it's like the person is like, if you looked, I'm sure if I watched old videos of you, I'd be like, yeah, that's still Dennis.
Yeah, I reckon. Yeah, I reckon. I suppose. I definitely wasn't as confident back then, though. I've earned this confidence that I have now, and that you really see. You know, back then I think I was just trying. You know, I think until you truly know, you're trying to be confident.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I think your confidence becomes knowledge, becomes certainty. I think there's a little pathway that you follow. Once you really see it backed up, then it just becomes then you just are that. But up until that point, you're doing everything you can to get there. But when you say as well, you know, those extra hours and all the work that you do and everything else, that stuff doesn't just naturally happen. Once you have the goal, right? Once you have a goal and you start to see yourself get there, and you're truly inspired to get there, this is something that truly inspires you, that's when you put in all those extra hours and all that extra and overcome all of those adversaries. Because if you weren't really that inspired by the thing in the first place, I don't think you'd do that. And that kind of comes back to what we said before with we talk about goals and size of goals, always go big with a goal. Always go big. So if you just say, I'm going to do a podcast, just whatever it is, always go for the highest thing that you can imagine, because that's what inspires you the most. that's what makes your reticular activating system vibrate the highest when you think about it. That's what will then bring it back to you. So if you go low with your goals, you're not that inspired. You're now not using law of attraction to its greatest. You're actually going to attract a major goal much easier than you'll attract a smaller goal, and you don't really care about the smaller goals that much anyway. So are you really even going to put in? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And then that's one of those things too, where I guess you see, like, with Conor, like when your goal is like the top of the top, double world champion, it's like you get there, and a lot of times then it starts to become more of like an inward journey in a way, because you realize that the thing that you wanted, well, I guess some people realize it but before or after they get the thing that they want. Where it's like, if it seems like with you've done all of the work on yourself, and not that it's over and you're not going to continue to work on it, but it's like you've almost done like a level of work on yourself that can avoid those kind of pitfalls of like achieving a goal, and then you hit that dead zone where you're like, well, my life was so about my purpose that once my purpose is achieved, I don't have, like, there's nothing left kind of after that, because like it was the ceiling. And that's what you saw with like the Tyson Fury, and then they have to then go and do that work in a void, where like there is no goal. It's only that internal work to like reconcile, whereas you've kind of done it while you're still in the process of achieving the goal. So it's like those wins are sort of still there.
Well, I'm glad that you said that, because I'm very blessed that I did that and went through that really intense party stage at that time of my life, and it's not ahead of me, because I have world champion, undisputed world champion, head off to be a coach. I want to have a gym in the major global cities. I want to have these center of excellences everywhere. Everything that I've used and utilized for myself, I want to have for my fighters. I want them to be able to fly around, do the European style against it, and I have this massive goal and vision. And even bigger, you know, I even want to do, I won't go into it, but I've got some massive goals. And I know that the most powerful thing in the world is goals. It's huge, and I can tell you a little funny story on that one if you want to. So my partner, Bradine White, so she, her grandmother, her goal, as she said, was she wanted to make it to 100 years of age, and she said, like, she was looking forward, because when you get 100, the president visits your house, writes you a check for €1,000, has lunch, and then drives off. And so,
what?
Yeah, that happens in Ireland.
That's cool as
fuck.
Yeah.
No, it's good. Yeah. So anyway, she, full of vitality, minded, like, you know, helped raise the kids and all of that, and a really nice family there out in Kilkenny, and she would have done a lot of minding of Bradine and all that, and when she hit her goal, I think it was the next day or that day or the next day, she said, "Oh well, I've done it now. I suppose I'll just be a hindrance from here on." They're like, "No." Within a couple of weeks, she had gotten dementia and passed away. So
wow.
And I've got another few stories like that, which I won't go into. But I truly believe that it's all got to do. My saying, right, which I got from Mitch also, was vitality is given where there's clarity of vision. Once you have that vision and you're able to tune into the frequency of it, tune into that vibration, then the vitality is given to support that. You're going to meet challenges along the way, but they're tests to get you to the next level. And that's how I look at all of these. That's how I was able to stand in Mexico and say, when Channel 9 was interviewing me, I still feel like the champion. I still feel like I've got the belt. I will have the belt. And it was the same in Brooklyn. I said the exact same thing. I've just been knocked out for the first time at middleweight. It's all good. I'll still have the belts. And I truly feel it, and I know it when I'm saying it right now. And so I've tuned in, and it's going to show up even better. It's going to see, for me, if you write a goal of just being world champion, okay, and there's nothing else with it, you know, I feel like I would have hit that goal a lot quicker than when I have this other huge goal, because I feel like everything that's getting me to this point right now are all the attributes and all the things that I need for after boxing also. So this is one big collective mission statement that's playing out here. All these adversaries are for this huge goal, And so that's why I'm still okay with it all, and no attachment to what should happen this year or what shouldn't. I think I know what I believe will happen, but I do know I'll be world champion, and these dreams will manifest. But it's not up to me to scream and shout about when it must happen. So.
And I think too that this podcast as well for me has been like a really great learning thing in terms of just staying on the fucking path, like one foot in front of the other, because you just don't know when something where you thought it was the end of the road. Like when I left America, I was filming the best motocross dudes in the world. I was making the coolest videos in motocross, getting millions of views. I was traveling, I was doing all that. When I left America, I was like, well, that's over now. There was like a sort of a sad part of me where I was like, that there was like a void to that, because I sort of felt like that was just a waste, like because I didn't get to, it just stopped. Yeah. And I was like, I didn't see all of that out, and then now I'll go back and none of that's there. I got to start again. But it's like that gave birth to the podcast, and then all of those skills, like everyone was looking at me like, oh, do you think the podcast just does so well because of all the contacts you've got? And is it because you knew this? And is it because... And I was like, yeah, it is because of that. It is because of the contacts that I got. But guess what? Those fucking contacts and the skills with all the camera stuff and the editing and the business, and that's all done from fucking zero. Like I started at zero, and I acquired all of those things myself. And I thought they were all for nothing when that went away. Yeah. But it was almost like I got all of this, and now that part of my life has like fully propelled this next part forward.
Yep.
So it's like you can't like look at things through the lens of like timelines and when this is supposed to happen, and if you have a setback like 2 losses in a year, that is like that's you're not that thing in that moment. Yeah. It's like you don't know what the fuck's going on in the next 6 months. Like I didn't 6 months before I started this podcast, zero idea I was starting this podcast.
Yeah.
6 months later, life's completely different. Yeah. And it's changing all the time, and it's great. And it's like you need to be the person that can like fucking take a huge hit, a massive setback, suffer a fucking crippling defeat, and then be okay. Yeah. Be mentally okay with it. And like you said, still a fucking champ. Yeah. If you can have that attitude in life, how the fuck can you lose?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
You literally can't lose because you lose, and then you just keep walking forward. Yeah. And that's like that loss is behind you. If you're fucking still a winner, you don't know when that next win's coming. Yeah. There could be another lot. As long as you fucking on the last day that you're here, you're still a fucking winner at something. You're still involved in some process that you can have a fucking win at. Yeah. Then you die a winner. Yeah.
That's it.
No one has to fucking die a loser. Yeah. No one has to live. You were a loser for one day or one moment when that dude's fucking hand was and Charlie's hand was risen, and then you go on being a fucking winner again.
Well, you see, I like that, but also at the same time, sometimes that's the journey for the biggest one. See, here's one of the things that I speak about. When I visualize being world champion, I made it so beautiful in my head. Like it's so emotional for me, and I made it like all the work and everything, the tears, the sweat, everything that I went into it. I was feeling all of that come out of me in that moment, and when I visualize it, it's beautiful. And I think I might have overdone it, because now it seems like life is bringing that to me. It's given me so many setbacks now.
It's going to make you earn that feeling.
It's making me earn that feeling. Yeah. So that's something that I'm going to be aware of, setting goals the next time, because it's really making me earn that feeling. But I will feel it. I will feel it, and it will be beautiful, because my God, did last year set me. I mean, here's the thing as well. Like after the Mexico fight, I had a choice to make. Right, get upset over everything or else be happy. And everybody said to me, like I got a lot of sportsman's lunches and stuff. You get a few quid for doing those. And people were gobsmacked of how I did an interview afterwards back in the hotel, and I had a Mexican hat on, and I was just drinking something, and I would have a bit of pizza afterwards. And
if the sound was off, you would have thought you won.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. And so people ask me about that, and I've got to the point in my life where I can choose how I feel in any moment. after the Charlo fight, I chose to have a good night afterwards, right? I chose to do that. I chose to relax. And then afterwards, when I got back to Brisbane, I just got the girl straight away and said, let's go down the Gold Coast. And we went to the beach and all that. So I just was craving the beach after being in Miami and New York for so long. But then I sat back and said, right, I have a choice to make now. How do I feel about this? And I said, right, I knew I could choose to be okay with it, but what I chose to do is I chose to feel like I don't want to let this happen again. So in order to do that, I had to let myself feel the disappointment, right? And then say, how do I drill this in that this does not happen again? And through doing that, I and a lot of thinking and just going back over everything, I made 7 key points that will now make sure that will happen in future going forward.
What are those?
Communication being one of them.
Which you've already said that,
you're
in the, like the coaches are in the loop and things like that.
They're all in the loop, and communication, periodization, which obviously fits into that as well. I've acquired another person as well in my circle, because I've got a small circle, but Sharon Anios, who also lives here on the Gold Coast, she's a 5-time world champion. She was an inaugural WBC female world champion. I actually was at her house this morning, so she's also given me some techniques and stuff that work for her to become world champion. So even at the age of 35, which I am now, and I have great mentors as well, up to this point, and every person I meet essentially I feel can give me a nugget or a gem. But I've also now got Sharon, who will talk about her, and she also does coaching with other people for different things, but just to stay in that vibration and to keep talking to these people. And she has me doing a couple of little techniques as well, just for the subconscious and for work like that, and we'll mill things over through conversations and stuff like that as well, because I feel like that's important. But not just is it good for me in my life as a boxer as well, it's also good for me after boxing as well, and being a coach and everything else, and just opening up and being receptive to people who have achieved what I'm looking to achieve. That's the key thing. I think that's the main point.
Well, that's humility.
Well, also,
because you're humble enough to admit that you've got a lot to learn. Yeah. Even as a person that, like, you could teach so much. Like, you could teach fucking boxing, life, being a professional, like, you could actually tell people so much that would help their life, but you're humble enough to go and ask all of these other people because you still think that you've got so much to learn. Like, that's what humility is.
Yes, well, I really don't feel like you ever stop. I seen there's a video on YouTube that I come across. I love looking at little research videos, and they actually said that the people that think that that are actually believe that they're masters in their area and believe that they know the more there is to know are actually people that aren't. It's the masters in someone's area are people that know that there's much more to be learned. And so when I went pro boxing, I thought, okay, I know pretty much a lot about boxing now. It's time to go professional, and I'll do what I can there and everything else. And so it was only, I went pro boxing thinking that I had boxing down pat a bit. Yeah. Wow. Little did I know. And even now to this day, we're still zoning in on little things that are going to make the world of difference. And I'm just like, this is incredible. So I do feel like there's always a universe of stuff that you can always learn, and I just never want to stop. And I enjoy the process. Yeah.
Well, that's like you hear when people say that they get their black belt in jiu-jitsu. It's like you've put fucking 10 years on the mats, and you are so fucking locked in to jiu-jitsu, but they put that black belt around your waist and you get a flood of emotion of, fuck, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
And everyone says that.
Glenn, he was one of the highest degree black belts you could get, and he said, now you started to, now it's nearly like the black belt is in terms of mastering, is now you're good enough to be able to master everything that there is. Is that what?
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Taylor Cecil, I'd love for you to, I don't know how many of these you've listened to, but there's one with Taylor Cecil. I'd love to even introduce you to him. He is a fucking brilliant guy. Young, he's our age. Fuck, the energy that comes off this dude. But he was telling me about there's like just these stages of like consciousness where it's like you don't know that you don't know, you don't know, there's like all of these different layers to it. And like the way that he explains that understanding, and it's like the highest level of that is not knowing that you know.
Not knowing that you know. So you actually have to go through the stage of actually knowing. So
I'll try and remember exactly the stages. So it's like first of all, you know that you don't know something. Yeah. So that's a white belt. Yeah. And then you are a black belt and you know that you know jiu-jitsu. Yeah. And then the real like kind of mastery level of it is just knowing that you don't know everything. Yeah. And then you go to that not knowing that you do know. And that's the time when you're actually a master at something. Yeah. Is that when you're so good at it, you aren't even aware that you know.
That you're that good.
That you know the thing.
Yeah. And it's also...
I'm butchering his explanation. But
it's making sense. But also... What Glenn said to us as well about boxing, and Bruce Lee has said it, is like when you're learning to throw a punch, it's the same. He talked about a kick, but a punch is the same for us, right? It's like first of all it's just a punch, right? But then you break it down. It's not just that you compartmentalize it a lot, into everything that it is, right? And there's just so much work goes into it, and then all of a sudden, when you know it so well that you're throwing it perfection, now it's just a punch again. And I really like that, because that's how I look at everything now. I want to compartmentalize all of it, every single part of it. I don't stop doing that now, even at this point. But this is going to sound crazy. There'll be boxing people on here right now going bullshit, but I'm 35 years of age. I have 7 knockouts on my record. I hurt people in nearly every fight, but I've let them off the hook, and I've done a bit of work on that mentally, and I feel like I've come to a resolution, and I'm ready now to start, because I can knock people down in spars quite easily as well. Not easily, but it will happen, but naturally. But in fights, it doesn't seem to manifest itself.
So what do you think that is?
Well, also, one of the things that one of my mentors spoke about for a long time was, he said, he's like, you don't want to hurt people. It's actually not in my nature to actually want to genuinely hurt somebody. And we have to get back to the stem of that. And this is called shadow work, which I do quite a lot. And I have another person in my life, Mimi, as well, who does life coaching and stuff. She's also my physio. She's done a lot of work with me in this. And so why is it? Like, so when I see that people are hurt, or they're tired or ready to go, why don't I want to move in on them? Because deep down, genuinely, I don't want to hurt people, but I'm so in tune with that. Like, I watch what I say around certain people to like, I'll say what I have to say, and I'll always be myself. But I'm very conscious. I physically and mentally don't want to hurt anybody. So I've got people that come onto my Facebook, try to criticize me and talk shit about me. I give them back a little bit of shit for a bit of fun. But I never want to say... there's stuff about those people I could say if I wanted to hurt them. Yeah. I could say shit publicly. But I never ever do, because I don't want anybody... And it's just not in my nature. One of the things some of the best fighters have is a ruthlessness. Killer instinct, I really want... And so we had to go back and see where that stemmed from. We found where that was. We've given it away. And I've got a bit of a hypnosis in terms of... When that happens now, I'm now relating that to something different in my mind. Yeah. Something goes off, I click in and I do what I need to do, and then when the fight's over, that drops out again. Yeah. And I've also got a guy working with me called Peter Powers. He has shows in England that's doing that hypnosis with me, to get me to see it, to get me to acknowledge it, and then to get me to do what needs to be done. Now, my coach can tell me till he's blue in the face. Like, I've got great fellas showing me the right technique and everything, and I've known it all, and I can throw it and I can do it on the pads, but I don't seem to do it in a fight. And especially as well in sparring, when I'm doing it and I've got somebody there. In sparring, you don't do it. Yeah. And you've got guys that will. In sparring, you don't do it. And then in a fight, then I think that also is the same thing. Yeah,
pattern responses.
So now it's time for me to just be that little bit more ruthless and just start doing it, because there's power in these fists. Yeah. When I land, I can really land. And so it's time for me now to zone in on that. So now, not only are we going to work that now into our game plan, I'm using all of these things And one of the things that would come up from someone else as well, they said was, someone said to me, Dennis, do you feel like you had to be knocked out before you felt it was okay to do it to someone else? Because one of my sayings is, don't do to someone unless you'd have it done to yourself. And that's how I live my life. I'll ask myself that. And so now that I know that it's completely okay to be, not that I'd ever had any fear about it or anything like that.
But you're right, there is a bit of a, like, that sort of does make a tiny bit of sense, you know? You're like, oh, okay, I can see that.
So I feel like that was meant to happen. That's what I feel like that was. I was meant to go to middleweight. I was meant to feel that. I was let that happen, because now I know that maybe you could be helping the person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can be either...
Fuck, that's interesting.
Yeah, so now that now resonates with me mentally. So now if I see a person hurt or tired that they're ready to go, I'll just go, okay, let's get them out of misery now. They're ready to go, they're hurt. Let's not make them suffer too much longer.
And you learn more from a loss like that.
I've learned more from a loss like that, and having the right people around me. But he's seen that in me for years. He's like, you just don't want to hurt people.
Well, even that fight that I watched with you, like, yeah, you didn't, like, you fucking pumped him a couple of times with some big shots, but it seems like you could have just trashed the dude.
I know. Something was going on for me inside, and I'm very aware.
It's crazy to make it so far in professional boxing, to be like one of the top fucking 2 in the world.
Yeah.
And then you've got that feeling like, I don't really want to fucking hurt anyone.
Yeah, it's just... yeah, I know. I mean, do you know what? When we did a bit of work in it, we actually got into a bit of a meditative state, and I spoke about after my second pro fight. Go back to the first time you felt like, you know, and so I remember I had fought a guy, I won't mention his name, but it was my second pro fight, and I had landed some great shots on him, and the fight ended at the end of the second round, I think, or the third round, and he came up to me after the fight. And he just wanted to shake my hand and say hello, but his face was all out in lumps, and that was, for me, that really hit home, because that was one of the hardest things I had to see. But I'll tell you why. Not because if we were on the same par, right, that was okay, right, that was the skill of it, but the fact that that was the part of my journey where I'm being built up, and that I've done that to a guy for money. That didn't resonate with me, and I remember going home later on that night, and I remember after having a few beers, I was a bit emotional over it, actually. And I thought, if this is what this ends up being, me just pumping guys for money, then I don't want a bar of it. And from that moment on, I got guys that couldn't be knocked out anymore. So that wasn't just matchmaking. I feel like that was divine intervention. Yeah. Some magical divine intervention was listening to me and gave me hard fuckers to fight from then. After I fought like about 10 to 12 knockout artists in my come up stage, you know, Stephen Moxon, there was other guys there as well that had lots of Tyrone Brunson. This guy had 19 first round knockouts in his first 19 fights. Brunson. Yeah. And so I beat him for the North American title, and so I feel like I asked for that rather than having an easier run against pumping these guys. I feel like I asked for that night when I said, "Don't give me any more people, just that are getting bet up for money." That did not feel good for me, and I think that's maybe where that might have stemmed from.
Yeah, and then you've kind of hung on to that now into like later on as it goes.
Yeah. Just to not really want to pump them, but that now is a block, and that now has become a negative thing where now when I'm on enemy territory down in Mexico, say for example,
you got to kill that motherfucker.
I need to knock him out to be sure.
Yeah. So
now we're really zoning in on that, and a couple of like, you know, body shots and stuff like that. I'm zoning in on the actual spots themselves. Yeah. And even with the guy wearing the body stuff and all that, I'm getting the nod that I'm hitting the right areas now. That was never me before. For me, it was land a shot, get up a shot, points. So even at 35 years of age as a boxer, where most fighters would be retired, I'm still learning. I'm still probably doing what I should have done 10 years ago, but that's okay.
Is it exciting? Because I can relate to that in a way of like the success that I'm having in this business as opposed to my previous businesses, and it's like fuck, I wish I knew this before, but it's like I'm fucking 30 and I'm excited every fucking day. Like every day I get up to go to work and I'm like, I'm gonna suck the day's dick. Like I got shit to fucking do still. Yeah. And it's like not everyone has that.
Yeah. Especially not being inspired.
Yeah.
They're not if you're not inspired, if you don't wake up in the morning and you've got something that truly inspires you, I don't think you know what it is to truly be alive. If you're working a 9 to 5, say, that you're not happy with, and you wake up on a Saturday morning like that, I believe try and make every day like your day off.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what it is. Oh yeah, of course. We get in the trenches when we're in camp, and there's days where my muscles do not want to get up and get out of bed and go spar another 12 rounds, 6 on the pads afterwards, 18 rounds straight in the heat. Can be up to 38 degrees here with high humidity. There's days where it tests you, but you need those days to keep to keep you strong and resilient, ready for what it is that it needs to be that what you desire to be. So, so I do believe that. I mean, I wake up straight away. First thing in the morning, I sit up, right? I sit up, back. I have a big bottle of water there too that I scull while I listen to my own voice talking my mission statement.
Yeah.
Over, and then a couple of little things that I visualize as well. I give gratitude for people in my life and situations, and you know, my family and what I've got. And but the night before I go to bed, I lie there religiously, right? And I just think about the best things. I try to pick the best few things that happen throughout the day, right? All the little wins that I've had, and then I try to bring it down to the 2 best, and then the best. Even if you reckon you've had a pretty shit day, you've still had 10 major wins that day, believe it or not. Yeah, you have. It's balance. It's energy. It's duality. It's yin yang. For every negative, there has to be a positive. And I always consider, and when I then I focus the energy on being grateful for that one big thing. When I do that, I plan out my day tomorrow. But I don't just plan out what I want to do. I put myself in the feeling. So let's just say
you feel what you're
I feel how I'm going to feel when I've achieved it. So I do my little schedule. I see Ari in the morning. We have a nice little connection. I go do my thing and it goes on. And then just say for my boxing, I'm feeling loose. I'm feeling ready. I do what it is. I say hello to a few of the boys. It's a nice feeling. Someone cracks a joke, right? I laugh. And I can feel these. But I put a lot of energy into it, right? So I'm in the ring. I'm doing the basics right. I do something new, right? Something I've never done before.
You get
right?
that feeling.
Yeah, I get that feeling, and then I just manifest I just visualize it, and when I always visualize getting out through the ropes, standing up and going, that was good.
Yeah.
And I visualize that feeling. I'm walking out of the gym after my pads, feeling refreshed and ready to go home, see my family and eat my dinner. So, and I visualize all of that.
And that's every day before you go to bed.
Every day, and it should only take you. Maybe 5 minutes, but sometimes I can put 20 minutes, 25 minutes into it.
Because it's fun.
Because it's fun.
Good feeling.
It's fun.
Man, it's funny. There's a couple of little things like with my jiu-jitsu stuff. The only thing I think about in competitions is there's a feel like for whatever reason, if I win I won like the nationals last year with Andrew was there. I stayed at his place and him and one of the boys from the gym were cornering me. And I like the whole time that week I was like visualizing like me and him like having the crack, and I was like, we're going to have a roll before it. And I was visualizing all of that. But for whatever reason, when I win something big that feels good to win for the team and for like my, you know, training partners and for the people that sacrificed their time and, you know, shit for me to do it. I have like this I always just go like, oh, like I just fucking, it's not like a scream, but it's just like tensing everything so hard that it makes like a particular sound. And I just feel that feeling. Like whenever I get nervous about a comp, even now, like I had it the other day because I've been off injured with training, and like it sucks to go back to training after a real long layoff. Like this has been the longest time I've spent off jiu-jitsu. And I'm going to get fucking bashed by dudes that I normally bash.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to suck that feeling up. And it's like I'm going to have to get humbled. Yeah. And whenever I get like a shitty feeling about that, I always go, oh, like I fucking squeeze and I feel that feeling. And then right after that feeling, like all of the emotion, all of the stress and anxiety, all my worries before and cutting weight and all the bullshit. And again, it's on a micro level to what you're doing as a fucking world champion contender. But it's like, it's a similar process that's what gets me through the things that I try and achieve at my level. Yeah. And then I do that, and then your hand gets raised, and then it's all gone. All of it's gone. Instantly. All the emotions gone, all the responsibility, it's all gone. And then I'm just like, okay, cool. I can now. I'll take that win. I'll enjoy that win. I'll chalk that up. The next time something gets hard, I'll think about that feeling, and then that will then propel me on. Yeah. But one of the things that you said about the morning thing, I am like, I've Googled this, man. Like I've literally Googled why am I so negative in the mornings, and I've never really come up with like an answer. Like I wonder if there's like a scientific explanation, but like my mornings are the most self-doubt I will feel. And like I've got a fairly shitty morning routine up until I start reading my book, and I always feel good after I read my book. But man, like I'll be fucking sitting on the toilet, I'll be looking at my internet stats for like iTunes and YouTube and shit, and then I'll, you might see like a man, and I always doubt like, oh fuck, I got Dennis coming in today, like I really hope I can do a good job, and fuck, I hope I don't sound like a wanker, and all that shit, man. And it's like, and I'm even like, oh, you're being real negative again, and even like you're even negative about being negative. And my whole life I've struggled with that morning feeling. I've never been a guy that jumps out of bed, and like I'm excited for the like, my life, and I know I've got a great life, but fuck, I have to battle hard in the mornings to like, but it's weird, man. In the mornings I've always struggled.
What's your last thoughts at night before you go to sleep, do you reckon?
I don't have any, man, and that's what I'm wondering. Like I don't, like I'll fucking pretty much get stoned and I'll think about, maybe I'm just too hard on myself, because I'll get stoned and I'll think about all the things I wish I could kind of did better. Maybe I'm... Yeah,
never look... I feel like what you're doing... You're see, people say you're stressed when you're living in the future, and you're depressed when you're living in the past. So if you're giving yourself past regrets, then you're then depressed, and that's the... So they reckon how you go to bed is how you wake up. So maybe go to bed with a bit more gratitude or whatever. I can actually send you one of those cool hypnosis little things that you can actually go to sleep listening to. And even if you wake up in the middle of the night, replay it again. Yeah. I've got a specific one for me and my goals, but there's a generic one which is unbelievable. And so what I do then as well is I have my phone on airplane mode. Now, what I used to do back when stuff was going on, I used to get up and see that, and that instantly took my emotion. So what I do now is airplane mode. I sit up, as I said, I have my water. I'm drinking that. I'm listening to my mission statement, which takes about 7 minutes, right? And I'm tuning into the energy of the day before I even put one foot out of the bed, right? As long as I don't need to go for a pee already, but I usually okay. And I get my energy up, and I make sure I'm feeling that energy of being the champion, and the day of going beautifully and everything coming out lovely before I even put my foot out of bed, or else don't get out.
That's fucking amazing.
Yeah. Well, I've had to do that, and I learned a lot there just before. Was you've got fights coming up, and you had so many people writing shit and stuff like that. Like I'd for the Munguia fight, say for example, that's when I started doing this, because I had so many people I just couldn't believe I could win that fight or even last the 12 rounds. And I used to wake up in the morning.
Was there that much doubt on that?
There was that much, yeah. The whole...
Really? So you had to go through all that?
Everybody except in my team, because I was convincing my team. I'm a different kettle of fish, man. People in my team, when I lost that last fight, I was the one going around, don't worry, man, we'll get it again. I'm soothing them because I'm still in the energy. I've already, tuned in. So... But yeah, I mean, so I used to wake up and I used to see shit, even with DDP, the sports promotion company with the boys, you had a lot of people on there that we write shit for no reason, a lot of haters. There's a lot of, just got real sort of
toxic.
Yeah, got like that. And so you wake up and then you're tagged in some shit thread of everybody projecting their own shit onto Facebook. And if you wake up right and you've had a beautiful sleep and you've gone to bed with the right intentions and you've done this and that, and the first thing you see is that's hard to turn that energy off.
I had that yesterday.
So what? Yeah. So that's hard to turn that energy off. You actually have to work hard to get rid of that then, because it's in your head. And so if you already get your energy up, right? You get your energy up. You see your vision, right? And you read your mission statement or you listen to it, whichever you want to do. You can just start off as a few goals and then just keep adding to it and keep adding to it. It becomes your masterpiece of your life. You read that every day, and when you read it, you feel vibrant. And then once I go down, right, and I see my daughter, I see the girls, and I have a coffee. After that, it doesn't matter what I see. Couldn't give a fuck. But if I see it in bed, it changes my energy. It's weird. It's like I've already created my vibe. I think the first 15 minutes very important towards how the rest of your day flows. Yes, you can fight it and manipulate it, but it's in a flow if you start it right.
Dude, the first 15 minutes of my day, every day, for probably my whole life, are the shittest 15 minutes.
Right.
That's the most doubt it's the most negative. Like, I'm not. Would you think at all I'm a negative person from just
no,
like talking?
not at all,
know?
not at all. But I will tell you that it's no, sorry, no, but I will tell you. You see, when you're waking up, you're back going through the brainwaves again, right? And there's delta, there's theta, and then there's alpha, and then there's beta, and then there's high beta.
Yeah.
So as you're waking up, you're going through this.
You're still in that slow,
you're still in
influential
you're still
pattern.
No, you're still in your subconscious.
Yeah.
That's your subconscious. You need to do some work on that. Your most inner dominating thought is, I'm not good enough.
Yeah. No, and I feel that.
Yeah.
And I know that from that, we were talking about like self-doubt and stuff before. Like, I've had to fight through this thing probably the last 12 months of like the fact that I'm not even worth the success that I'm even having now.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big problem for me.
Yeah.
Like, I have to battle through like telling myself what I deserve to have, or because the feeling of like what I should have isn't even what, like, I've got more than I feel like I even should have.
Yeah.
And that's a real weird thing to sort of to live with. But yeah, it's that first, it makes sense because that in that Joe Dispenza book, he's saying that you are in your subconscious in the morning, and that with the way that those brainwaves work, you can actually take in so much more information. Like, it's so much more critical, the information that you're taking in when you're in that subconscious state, than if you're in is it the theta waves, or like what's like the
well, there's
short ones?
delta when you're asleep, and then there's theta. And then there's alpha, then there's beta. Once you get into beta, you're now on just conscious
like fight
mode.
and flight kind of mode.
Oh no, high beta would be fight or flight.
Yeah, okay.
But beta is where your body is just naturally doing everything.
Yeah.
So when you're driving your car, you're not even thinking. You're in beta right then. But here's the thing. Here's what I've learned to do to get into the flow, into the zone. On top of all of that, you now go, if you can do it and access the flow, or the zone, or there's many names on this, you then go into gamma brainwave.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when I'm in the ring and things slow down and I get really confident and I'm like calling them onto the ropes. That's when you're feeling the flow. Then it goes into gamma. But you got to learn to be able to get into that from a certain area, but you have to come off beta to get into that.
Yeah, right.
So that's why people that are doing very fast activities end up just entering it and don't know why.
Yeah.
You can't go from any other. You have to work your way up in that way.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think that with a lot of that stuff, like the way that you're doing it with like the fighting and stuff, is like you're so in tune and you're like so in the moment that like all the other areas of the brain turn off.
Yeah.
You know, you've got like you can't think about other shit. And I think that's what's like addictive about things like boxing or jiu-jitsu or motocross or running, is like you just get so engrossed in the activity in the moment. Because like you said, like that's one of the things with meditation is like you should want to exist in the moment, because when you're living in the past, you have, you know, you can be in depressive state, and when you're living in the future, you're worried about when you're worried about the future, you're anxious.
Yeah, anxious.
So it's like stay in that zone, and like being in boxing or jiu-jitsu or whatever it is that you do, it keeps you in that zone where like you're not worried about the past or the future.
It does. And even on a higher level again, I've realised when I started really seeing this stuff, what used to happen. So I bought a jet ski off a sponsor back in 2016. And I was going through legal stuff back then, right? And so my situation has changed now. But when you would get a legal letter, you're like, oh my God, talk about kicks in your fight or flight.
Yeah.
But what I found it doing was jumping on my jet ski and going for a spin up the river and back again. And I found that relieved the stress. And I was like, is that because I enjoy doing it? But I realised it's because you're so focused.
You're in the zone, yeah.
You're in the zone. I don't want to come off there. There's bull sharks all over the Brisbane River. Yeah. And so I have to drive non-stop because I'm crazy Dennis Hogan. Yeah. Right? And I'm just flying along. And so because I'm so focused on the now for an hour, it completely refreshes me and revitalized me. And I went, wow, what a crazy thing that is. So then I'm like, so that's basically a meditative state, actually. So now it's like, okay, well, a lot of monks used to say that they believe their whole life could be a meditation. Eating your dinner is meditation. If you're not looking at TV when you're eating your dinner and you're just enjoying the taste and all, that's meditation also. Yeah. As long as you can turn off and think about what you're doing in this moment, whether that be just sitting there saying or saying nothing, or eating your dinner or slow walk, whatever. Joe Dispenza does a walking meditation, believe it or not.
Yeah, right.
A meditation as you walk.
There's a thing, so I'm still not there with it yet. Like, I'm still a fucking long way away from being regular with those kind of practices. But like, I had like a relationship breakup, and that really got me fucking doubled down on just myself as a person, because I know that a relationship between two people that love each other a lot and that have been through a lot together, that isn't a one-sided thing. When that breaks down, there's two people involved in that. And I had probably spent too much time thinking about what her side of that was and not enough of what my side was. I could tell you all the things that she did that fucking pissed me off.
Yeah.
But I genuinely didn't know my role in that. And that fucking pissed me off. And I was like, it had to happen. Everything went the way that it did. And then I was like, I'm going to fucking work on myself. And that's when so much of that, I did a lot of like that searching for those kind of, what you're talking about, like those kind of teachings. And then I did start to, I looked at shit like washing up, fucking shit job, doing my laundry, shit job, cleaning the house, fucking, I didn't want to be doing that shit. I'd rather be in my head thinking about all my goals and fucking just like the wheels just turning constantly, because it feels good. It's like gluttonous to live in that state. You're very distracted. You don't have to be with yourself as much. And I was like, man, I'm not really right with being just by myself. I've got no enjoyment in washing a dish. You know what I mean? Like, I've got no enjoyment in vacuuming the house. I was like, I feel like I need to chase that state where I can be okay right there. Remove myself from all of my problems and worries and all the external shit, and just be like okay with like me in that moment. And it's like, you talking about that took me back to when I was practicing that a little bit more than even I am right now. So it's like, it's a fucking constant battle. And the meditation thing is something that I really struggle to do consistently, even though it's something I really want to do and I believe in it and I see the value. But it's the same thing as what you were saying about, you know, you didn't really think that you could be the world champion. Like right now, I don't have like my identity, like I don't identify as a person that meditates every day. I can't see that future version of myself.
Let me tell you something that might change your mind on that. Right.
I want to change my mind on it, trust me.
When you meditate, right, it affects your brainwaves. Now, what it really does as well, one of the greatest things that it does is your brain heart connection is able to increase, because when you shut down all the noise, so Dr. Joe Dispenza himself did the
This is
did
where
the thing.
I've learned a lot of that
and you
stuff,
see all this, it's all crazy, it's all erratic. But then when you calm your mind down and you're present, the brainwaves are going straight. Now they also can connect to your heart. If you want to manifest your best way of doing it, you need to be more whole. Your heart and your brain connection is the best thing that you can do to be able to manifest. Because once your heart and the dreams that you envision are matched with your head, that's when the manifestation multiplies by so much more. Yeah. And so knowing that, then you know you're thinking, okay, well, it's definitely worth my while trying to stop the noise. Yeah. And then you can sit down and you can do that a lot more. I mean, if you know that this will help you actually hit your goals, and you know that's the scenario, then I think you're going to go and do those things.
But then it's still that thing though, where it's like the self-worth thing. You know, it's like you've got to feel like you're worth all of those things.
Yeah, like, I get you. But I mean, also, like, we live in a very high dopamine society, like a high stimulus, which is dopamine. So if you're finding it hard to meditate, maybe just try and give away a lot of your hours on your phone and the TV. Just try and do a few days getting around with not much stimuli, and so then that will then stop that need in your brain for dopamine.
Yeah, it's I say it's like, I don't know if it's the right term, but it's like, it's gluttonous. It's like I'm like fucking pigging out on all of those things that give you that dopamine. Yeah. And it's like, it's real hard to let go of those things. It's like, you are right, and I'm in the stage of my learning about all this shit that I know you're fucking right, but there's still that old me that is still living in that world, and I still have an attachment to that world. And it's like, it's hard to say that, but like, you have to be honest and say, like, I'm still needing those things. Yeah. But I mean,
we all do to a degree. I mean, it's one of the things that if you have a kid, man. My daughter, she's nearly like one of my greatest teachers now, because when I'm with her, she wants my full attention. Now that's probably her thing, okay? But I have to be with her, okay? No phone either, because she'll act up. Yeah. I've got to be with her and play with her. And that was so hard for me to do at first. No, I enjoy playing with her, but just to be that, because I usually have
be present.
Yeah, because I usually have YouTube on all day long.
Yeah,
always listening to a tune. I love music, so it's like it's like her little way is that me and her are just constantly, and I've just realized. I was realizing, going, wow, this is really bringing me right back. And she's actually helping me with this. And now that we have another kid on there now as well, I find that all those other things that make the most noise now all have taken the back seat. Yes, when I get the chance, I jump on there. I'll be onto YouTube trying to see what else I can learn, like I always do. Yeah. And I listen to my favourite songs and everything else, and the very odd Netflix thing. But yeah, it's still there in the background wanting to be played. But having kids, I'm telling you, man, game changer.
That's crazy.
Yeah. They demand it.
Yeah.
They demand it.
So so we were talking about the psychedelic stuff before. So like, where does all of that fit in with like the knowledge, like that you kind of learn externally? If that makes sense. Okay,
so for me, again, mushrooms. I started picking those, eating them as we picked them back in the day, and I had the strangest ever, and it still resonates with me today. The first time me and my cousin Dara, we went down to the field and we got these mushrooms and we ate them as we picked them, and we decided to because we weren't going to go home. We decided to jump on this rapid town link that brought us into another town, and as we did, it started coming up on the bus, and it was just so. Anyway, it was like, wow, this is intense. But I remember walking around, right, and I remember laughing at everybody, and what it gave me instantly was, I see people in a rush.
Yeah.
I was there going,
what for?
What's everyone rushing around for? And it was the first time I ever had that insight. I could see people rushing around doing all this, and in my mind, for the first time in my life, I thought, these people think there's a rush to get home. Like, you know what I mean? They're going to rush to get home to do nothing, and all these perspectives just started hitting me, and all I found was funny. And I remember my cousin going, stop laughing, like, just because I was just laughing out loud like an idiot. And then after that, the next day, I was going, where were those thoughts coming from? What was going on there? I was like 14 or 15 there, and I was like having these epiphanies that now gurus are speaking about. Yeah. You know what I mean? They're talking about, calm down, relax, like, what's the big rush? And I was having those epiphanies at 14 just after taking a few mushrooms from a field. So I knew that there was something to psychedelics, and I was always very interested. And the odd time when I was drinking, I would take them, but
it's different, eh?
It is different.
You've got to have an intention with it.
Yeah, I got to have an intention. But I learned a bad lesson one night. One night, if my cousin is watching this, he'll remember this. And I had been, we were out and we were partying, and I had some, and I wasn't being particularly nice at one point. And so I wasn't genuinely going out of my way to be bad, but I thought I was right in some scenario, and I wasn't very nice anyway, and I wasn't all that bad either. I'll just state that, but I just didn't present myself well, and I wasn't being kind in that moment,
and not true to yourself,
that person, right? And so as the party progressed, all of a sudden, instantly, I started to feel like the boys that were there had all turned on me, and everybody was being sort of malicious towards me, and this was really weird for me. I thought I was freaking out, and I started to get scared. Now, if you threaten me now, I'll go the other way. I won't be getting scared, let me tell you.
Walking forward.
Yeah. But this one I got really like, and I had to ring a taxi, and the boys were like, you're okay, relax. But I'm like, why are you talking about me like this? And they weren't talking about anything to me. And I went home, and I was awake all night, and it was just I was having all these sort of things. But when I finally came down off it all, I realised that how I had made the other person feel in that moment, especially me being who I am, like, I probably, because what I felt like everyone had turned on me, and I probably gave that person that feeling. So what psychedelics did for me within a couple of hours was turned it on its head, made me feel the insecurities that other people may be feeling if I act a certain way. And it was scary for me at that point, because I wouldn't usually feel that on a conscious level. Yeah. So that was an eye-opener for me then as well, to be much more conscious of what you say and how you react, whether you're right or wrong, it's going to have bigger influences on other people. And I felt that, and I felt that strongly. So I was going, this is it. So then that was the last time that I ever took psychedelics while drinking alcohol. I had given up alcohol, and I have given it up, and I've been off it since August of 2011. But psychedelics, I always like to do shadow work. So again, with mentors and going back to look at stuff and see different things, I take psychedelics with an intention to really get down into the core of what's going on and who I am, and looking to see if there's anything I can pull up. And just over Christmas, so I don't know what way to tell the story in this, but just over Christmas I had taken, because again after the loss with Charlo, I had DMT. I got some DMT, and I usually do it with my friends, with my circle, because setting is a very important part. But this time I wanted to do it by myself.
Had you ever done it by yourself?
No, never before. Not before this time over Christmas, because I went in with an intention. I said, I'm going into the intention to see if there's anything down there. If there's anything in there right now that's still messing with how I feel about myself or anything like that. May it come to me. And so I hit it.
Fuck, that's scary, bro. Yeah. Because I've got some shit that I'm like, when I do that, I've got some shit in there that I really want to try and reconcile. And I've got to the point where I feel like there's something in there that's holding me back. And I've kind of got little visions of it through mushrooms and cannabis, but then I'm like, I feel like that's sort of one of the reasons I'm putting off DMT is because I'm like, that's the thing, I'm gonna have to look that fucking thing in the face. And it's a scary thing, man, to know that you're gonna feel that uncomfortable and be faced with something.
I get what you're saying, but I welcome these things. It was like when I wanted to give up alcohol. Right, and I went to a 12-step program meeting, and I wanted to be there. So when I make up my mind on something, I want it, regardless of how bad. Because
no matter how much it sucks,
because I want the benefit of it, and so that's why I hit this, and I hit it a little bit harder. And I was still, with DMT, you go into another dimension, and you just go back. But I still had another bit to grab another bit, because I said, let's just do this.
Let's go.
And I went down and I just went, oh God, this is too intense. I went, oh, I might have overdone this. But how I got through it was I just let go, and I just kept giving love to everybody and everyone and the whole world and the universe, and I just gave it all out, everything that I had inside me, gratitude for everything that I had and everything. And then eventually you get over that, that peak of it. So
when you were in the real intense part of that experience, you just decided that the way to get through it was to give love. Because
I figured out in my life that when things aren't going good for me mentally, I'll search people that need a hand in some way or another. That's why I do little things with that's how I end up doing bits with Parkinson's, boxing and stuff like that, or whatever it is. I find that for me, I used to go out to the jails with the 12-step, and I used to see that when I was going through stuff myself, giving back was always how made me feel good. So in this moment when I was there going, this is slightly terrifying now, because I'm now going through an ego death. Well, I sort of felt like I was, but I was still conscious and of whatever, and so I just kept giving it all out and wishing the world well, and and all of a sudden it came right back to me. Within 20 seconds of doing that, it came right back to me, and then I was over the peak of it, and then I was enjoying the rest of it, which is you just seeing all this crazy beautiful stuff. And it wasn't even then that it came to me. It was afterwards, and I'd finished up, and I was sitting there, and then I was just sitting there, just in that sort of meditative state. It's very easy to meditate when you're finished with that stuff, let me tell you.
Yeah, because you've kind of just got nothing left, right?
Yes, your conscious brain has just shut down completely. It's just your subconscious now speaking to you. Anything that's coming to you in this vibe is your subconscious talking to you.
Yeah.
And it came to me and it said, because again, I was like, what is anything hindering my success? And then it said, what is success? And I said, well, why have I been chasing this all along? And what's been going on for me? Well, why did I feel like I need to chase success? And that brought me from one thing to another, to why did I even, when I was younger, I used to like to chase girls. When I was, even younger than a teenager, I used to really fancy girls, and I used to do that. And then I started to say, Was it by getting with them? Was that validation?
Yeah.
Was I looking for validation? Why was I looking for validation? And I started to get really deep on it, onto the point that I came back to a moment in my life when I was a kid, and I remember somebody that I really looked up to, and they're still in my life today, and there's no badness or anything, but this was a perception when I was younger. This person that I really looked up to, and I was a cheeky little fuck, like I was really bad, and and I thought I was having the crack, but really I was just a young kid being cheeky as fuck to all these older fellas that were around, my older brother being one of them. It wasn't my brother in this instance. And I remember I had said something that obviously threw this guy over the edge, and he was a guy that I really looked up to, and he gave me a bit of a fucking of a shitstorm. You know, you're a little, you know, and I looking back now, seeing it, I'd be like, you know, I would have deserved it because I was a little cunt. But I remember it brought me back to how I felt, and it made me feel this small and really vulnerable. And maybe that, like, I never was what I thought. And this was only about the age of 8 or 9 years of age. It was after a boxing session one night, and so what I did then at that point, this was about 10:30 at night. I jumped on there, and I hit up Mimi, who does this. She does lots of Tony Robbins stuff, and she's helped me break through lots of blockages and barriers. And so I got in, and I seen her the next morning at 9:30. And I got in there and I said, right, I just walked in and I was barely able to, because I was still raw in the emotion. You know, my conscious brain of like, you know, if something's coming up for you, can overcome it. But in this moment, I was like, I had to take a second to tell her, because I was still feeling the raw emotions of when I was a kid.
Yeah.
That's how powerful this stuff is, like for me, when I go in with this intention. So she got me there, she brought me back to it. We seen the benefit in it. We seen all the positives and all that stuff, and we gave it away, and I consciously and unconsciously gave it away and let it go, and that's what it was. And it was great to see that could have been something that was, it obviously was harbouring stuff inside me.
And so what do you think like the core underlying thing was? That, like, what was the significance of like him making you feel so small?
Oh, the significance was the life journey, and the amount of self-work that I actually do on myself, and my willingness to go do that.
Yeah.
If that hadn't happened, I may have just gone on and done boxing and been very successful and not even cared, and gone on to do other stuff and just in this and not be me right now.
Yeah.
But maybe that was the exact turning point where I grew this thing of, okay, well, the negative in it was that it was kind of harbouring not good enough feelings.
Yeah.
But the positive to that negative was
I
was on this mission to find out what it took to do whatever it takes to feel good about myself, to vindicate myself, to be able to feel not like that again.
Yeah.
And that was true success that I was. I mean, consciously I love boxing. Consciously I love to win. Consciously I love all those things. But that may have been the subconscious driving force, as well as other things. Like I'd done it, as I told you about the quantum collapse theory. I'd done that before as well on myself too, and I had some beautiful realizations, and it upped my self-worth, and it shifted my most inner dominating thought. But there's still other little things in there, like, you know, that are sitting there. And when I asked, was there anything else? And that came up for me. I knew that was a major block, and I knew that I gave it away then the next day for sure.
Well, it makes sense. Like I'm thinking about just that moment of that guy saying that, like how it made you feel super small in that moment, and then from that moment you've got something to prove. And then it's like you attach success to something to prove, and then you're like, well, what is success? And then it's sort of, I guess it circles back to, it's like, hey, I've got nothing to prove, and success isn't the thing, like in terms of boxing world titles or girls or this and that. Maybe it's none of that, and it's like you can kind of let go of all of those things and just sort of start to harbour in on like sort of narrow in on just like yourself.
You're doing it now out of inspiration.
Yeah.
You're doing it now because, again, accomplishment is my top value.
Yeah.
So now I'm just hitting my values. So it no longer needs to happen for me to feel good. That actually blocks itself. If I needed to feel good if I needed to be the champion to feel good, how was I ever going to feel like the champion?
Yeah.
So that's a block.
Yeah.
How can I resonate as the actual champion? So maybe that was what was blocking me before. But now that I no longer need to feel that way to validate myself, I can feel like the champion, and I can truly feel like, because there has been shifts in me in the last few months.
Yeah.
I'm just on a different level, I feel, vibrationally as well. So because I feel like you have to get yourself there. So I've never been more certain. And again, it's like you said, what is success? Well, when my hand gets raised in victory, it's not all that it is. For me, I look back over the journey of what it took to get there. And that's where the meat is for me. Yeah. It's not just in that fight and in that moment where everybody's around and, you know.
Because that moment only lasts a second.
That moment only lasts a second. Yeah. And that's more, I feel like that's more ego. But that's okay. I mean, that's okay. But for me, the real juice and meat is in what it took to get there.
Yeah.
And so that's why I feel like when I win that world championship for the first time, and I look back on all of this, every moment, I feel like that's just going to make it feel like, you know, and whatever, and all these little things that I'll keep hitting along the way.
Yeah.
You know, so that's called shadow work, and I'll do. But again, with the psychedelics as well. So I'll start off with Cleary. So I don't know if I should be saying
that would be sweet.
Yeah. So Cleary's like, Dennis, I've got this stuff DMT, and I'm like, whoa, well, I've heard of that. But I'm also somebody who's got a very addictive personality, so maybe I should
don't think you could get addicted to that.
I know now you can't.
Yeah.
Not unless you want to be shitting it every night and like scared it before you do it every time. But that's not. So you can't. So no. But I will speak to. He said, come and. Come and have a shot of this with me. So I'd done a lot of research, as I would do before something like that. And I seen that it's not an addictive thing. If anything, it can help you. There's something called as a peyote that actually can get people unaddicted to heroin and alcohol in one go.
Mescaline is the drug in that.
Okay, mescaline is the actual. Okay. So anyway, so I did it, and we went over there, and I did it. I did it for the first time. I took 3.
Were you real scared before it?
I was nervous. Yeah, I was nervous. But being with Cleary though, he was real relaxed about it. And I took 1 first off, and I was like, yeah, there's something to this, all right. So I said, next time I'll go 3 once. And as I did, and I went down, I knew that you had to let go. Because it's in my nature to fight. Yeah. You know, so fight or flight was kicking in. I knew I had to let go. And then down the tunnel I went. But in this so the craziest thing I ever seen, mate, right, was just, it seemed like this object, I don't even know what dimension it was in, but it sort of reminded me of something like that band. It was all entangled, and next thing, all of a sudden, about 1 million heads just went, it was snakes, all at once, right? And I was like, I was like, what was that? And so at the end, I don't really remember what went on in between that, but I remember when I came out of it, Andrew Cleary had said that I went, whoa, that's exactly what I was looking for. Now, I wasn't looking for anything up to that point, so I don't know what. I can't remember, because you can't remember these things, but I did remember that. And I did do a little bit of researching, because after I hit it, I usually see a lot of snakes in there. And when you Google snakes, it's a representation for transformation as a snake sheds its skin. And there's a few more symbolisms as well also, but it was just like, to have a trip and to see something that has a symbol. Why am I getting symbols? And then I also one time I seen snakes on a staff, and I went, what's going on here with this? And I started to Google that, and then there's some staff from a Greek god called the Caduceus or something like that, and that's actually going around. It wasn't the same thing that I seen, but similar to what's on an ambulance, and that's a symbol for medicine. That's a symbol, and it's also a symbol for the god.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
that is on the ambulance logo.
It is on the ambulance, and guess what else it's on that led me to read? It's on the book Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Yeah, right.
And then that led me to read that book as well, and which was mind-blowing. And that also goes into pineal gland activation by yourself without taking psychedelics. So
like Kundalini yoga and shit.
All that stuff. Yeah. And so how did that loop on itself? It's crazy how it looped on itself. But even that night, I even learned a lesson. I even got a little lesson from the DMT itself. So the next time I said, right, that was good. We've got a bit left. We're gonna go again, and because I always go in with an intention, more so, unless I don't, which is just with the boys. But anyway, I'll talk about that. But so this time I went, right, I said that was 3. I'll go 6. And I did 6, and I went, oh no, I've done this too much. It was too much. I felt like, and I was just there, and I was sort of fighting it, and there was nothing I could do. I just felt so uncomfortable, and I'm seeing all this stuff, and I just said, Cleary had a friend there in the house that night, and I just remember saying to myself, I said, this is too much, I can't handle this, in my head. And next thing, all of a sudden, I felt a nudge, and the guy beside me goes, it's okay, brother, I've got you. And he put up his hand, and I went like that, and next thing, it felt okay. And coming out of it, I remember going, whoa, hold on, I'm holding hands with this guy. And then I remember going, all right, as I snapped out of it, I said, mate, how did you know? He goes, I felt you. I went, oh, you're having a laugh. And I know I'm saying this on a podcast, I know how crazy this sounds, but I felt like the fabric of reality was broke down, and he felt what I was putting out, and he actually put his hand out, and Cleary was just sitting there too. He was just looking and smiling, going, "How are you guys doing?" But I learned that the lesson in that was, just because something was good doesn't mean you have to overdo it, which is me in my whole life. That's me, even in my training. I'll overtrain. I was going to say training. But me in anything, that what I used to do with alcohol, what I used to do when I was partying. If anything feels good for me, I have to order. Like, I'd have a coffee here, just say with you, right? Just say it's the morning, have a coffee. That was good. When's my next one coming? Yeah. Like, and so that instantly in that moment said, just because something's good doesn't mean you have to overdo it. You know, there's moderation to be used here, especially with psychedelics. Yeah. So I'll just tell you that. One of the biggest things that had for me afterwards, and I've done it a good few times since, one of the things I had after that was, I remember that ever since giving up alcohol, I remember having these dreams at least once every week or 2 weeks, where in this dream I would be at a social event and my friends would be there, family would be there. Next thing, I'm having a drink, right? And it's no problem. And next thing, I'm either having a drink and then I'm taking drugs as well or something. And I remember, and in the dream, next thing, all of a sudden, everyone started to turn on me, going, "What are you doing? You're better than this. Like, you've given this up, and you've got a bigger vision, and all this kind of stuff." And next thing, I started to freak out, and I started to feel all this guilt and shame, and I'm starting to hide from people. And then I wake up out of this dream, going, "Oh, thank God, that was just a dream. That's intense." But I would be harbouring guilt and shame, and I may harbour it for a few hours, the rest of the day, or even into the next day. Ever since I took DMT, I've never had a dream like that again. I've had dreams where I've been with socially drinking and whatever else, and I've had no guilt and shame attached to it. And I feel like that is after rewiring my brain somehow to not associate guilt and shame to anything. Yeah. Like I don't feel guilt and shame towards anything now. It would come up if I did something that was shameful or guilty, I was guilty of, but not just for memories or anything, or for being me. Yeah. It totally detached that. And there was one other little thing that happened was, I remember I love going sitting in this part of Brisbane looking over the city, and I love looking over and seeing through the windows and going, you know, like just letting my imagination take over. So someone might be coming in, they might have just got a promotion at work and they're partying. Someone else may be there and they may be struggling financially. Someone else might be there, and there's all this stuff going on all in this one area, and that sort of mesmerizes me a little bit. And but I remember thinking, you know, for the whole love of the city that I've got of Brisbane, and I do love it and I love looking at it, you can never experience all of it in one go. And I don't know why I used to think like this, but like, it's like that person's only feeling what they're feeling, that person's only feeling, and I don't know why, but I used to think these things. And after taking DMT, I can sit there and I can have a feeling for the whole lot of it at once. Now, I don't even know what that means, but I can just sit there and just be satisfied. And I don't know what that means, but it's a true feeling that I have that I didn't have for all my life before then. I don't know.
I love the fact that you're even able to talk about this stuff, because like, fuck, it helps people so much, man. Like, it's insane. And to hear from people that are super successful and on the right path and doing positive things, like you do your charity work, you're a father, and you know, it's like you're a model of like a good guy that's fucking having a real go. And it's like, and these are things that have helped you get there. And it's like, I love the fact that you can be so honest and open about those kinds of things, because it's like they really do fucking help people. Yeah. I feel like that psychedelics one, you know, talking about that, I didn't really know if that was going to be good or not. But if I had a positively profound effect on me, then it can with other people.
and so why not talk about it now? So it is what it is, as they say, and I think, and I just hope people can get the same benefits if they are looking at that. But also that you're also very careful about, like when I done all that stuff, I looked into it, like not when I was a kid picking mushrooms in the field, eating them as I picked them.
Well, I think mushrooms are pretty gentle.
But yes, they are, especially in comparison.
Yeah.
But if you're going to go and do anything, definitely do your research on it, know what can happen, and definitely always start smaller than a larger dose of anything that you're looking to do. And
I'd say too to people, like the one thing that I get a lot with, like talking about cannabis and stuff, I'm like, you can't really fuck with it. Like I flew back from Melbourne the other day, and Cleary actually rolled me a joint for the day that I was there, and I sort of had planned, like I don't smoke a lot when I smoke, so this joint was going to last me like that day and then into the next day, but the F1 got cancelled, so I just pieced out a day early. So I had this baseball bat that Cleary's rolled for me, and I was like, I'm gonna go deep on this motherfucker.
Ooh.
Like, but right before the Uber picked me up, and I've done it before a flight with edibles, and I just got fucked like proper. And I was in that same sort of space where you are with mushrooms or any like real psychedelic, where it's like you feel like you're not gonna come out of it. And I was in the mood. Like, you don't want to do that shit all the time. But I was just in the mood to just fucking go deep. Like, I feel... It's interesting, too. Like, one of the things that you were saying about, like, chasing girls and shit. This is the first time in my life where I've been single and I ain't fucking bitches for validation. I don't need it. I used to need it, bro. Like, I used to fucking need that shit. I struggled in relationships because of it. Like, it ruined relationships with girls that I really cared about and that really cared about me, because, like, I was never, like, a cheating guy. Like, I wasn't that dude, but I was always fucking just in that headspace where I just felt like I needed that kind of validation. And this is one of the things where it's like, I know I'm not all the way there, and especially, you know, with like that meditation, letting go on the distractions, I'm not all the way there yet. But this is what makes me think I'm semi on the path. I ain't fucking bitches for validation. I was that dude, man. And now, like, and it's not even like, it's hard to explain. It's like, I still get that it's fun and why it can be fun, and I'm not looking down on it, and I'm not like, there's no negative feelings towards that. If you still want to do that, it's fucking all good. But like, for whatever reason, like, that had a negative impact on my life and my development as a person. That's I guess the level at which I cared about the feeling that was associated with banging a super hot chick. That's fucking gone. And I feel like it's because of that work that I've done on myself. Like, I had to look that in the face, which is uncomfortable. It's fucking uncomfortable to look that shit in the face and admit to yourself that you feel your self-worth goes up $1, $2, whatever the fucking value you want to put on it, when this shit happens. And it's like, do you want to be that guy? And it's like, I was forced to fucking stare down that barrel through doing those, you know, psychedelics. And even with cannabis, man, like, I really believe that is a psychedelic when you go deep enough with it. And it's like, I regularly put myself in that fucking hurt locker. And it's like, and then people will tell you like, oh, it's fucking, you know, you're a fucking stoner and this and that. And it's like, if you're doing it a lot, then there's a problem with pulling out the lessons that you get. You're not really giving yourself a chance. And the problem with weed, and this is where weed's a real motherfucker, is that the effect of that drug, it makes you so introspective. You can live in that zone. And then you can just keep this constant like rumination, and you can just keep going over and over and over in your head. And it feels good. It's the same as it's a good feeling to, like, you think that you can solve the world's problems and your own problems by like existing in that state, but you can't. And that the physical effects of that drug, it's not like fucking coke or something where you're like, all right, let's get up, let's do some shit. Like, you're fucking you're heavy. Like, your existence is heavy on that couch or that beach or fucking wherever you are. And it's like, then the challenge is to come out of that and, like, you know, put those lessons into practice. You have to live that life then. Terence McKenna said that. If for anyone that doesn't know, he's a massive advocate for DMT.
But he said that he actually did smoke weed on a daily basis. But he said that the best way to do it is to not smoke it and then get into it.
Yeah.
Hit it heavy. But he believed hitting everything really heavy.
Yeah.
But he had gotten himself to that state where he was able to do it. I don't say hit it heavy until you get used to it.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah. But if you don't smoke it for a while, or like do anything and then you do it, and you have an intention there, you will see a lot of stuff. I definitely know that a few people that smoke weed that I thought straight away, the introspectiveness of it, I'm like, dude, what are you even thinking that stuff for? Like, Jesus, that's... And then I'm like, and after talking about it, I'm like, do you know what, that does make sense. So I'm like, that seems like years of thinking.
It is.
You know what I mean? And then I don't know if that happens in one go or if that's just through smoking it on a daily basis, but I'm like, oh wow, you can...
I get in that zone every day. I like being there. But now it's just levels. Like, there's levels to it. Now it's like, you've got to be a functional fucking person. Like, you can't... Like, you have to take things out of this. Otherwise, it's just a waste of time. You're just a fucking stone philosopher. Then that's fucking useless. Like, what's the good of that cunt to anybody? You know, so... But what's coming up for you? Like, have you got things booked in, or have you got like any sort of roadmap in terms of your next couple fights? Yeah,
so my next fight is so they told me, as I said, going to middleweight to do this fight. They said when you come back to your weight of 154, you will have a straight title eliminator. So that's on the cards next. It's just about getting it in now. Now with the coronavirus, now that's put it off. I did think it would be May or June, but I don't know. People are talking about September now and stuff like that. Maybe that's just hysteria. I don't know, but I don't
think anyone can know at this point.
Nobody can know, and they certainly won't. And I know that. But I know that PBC as I said, I came to fight. I really did come to win, and they're happy for me. I believe they want me as their champion. And so they're going to give me a fight, and then I'll fight off against one of the champions. So you can't call it an official eliminator, because I haven't worked my way up in the rankings there, because I've just been a middleweight. But what they can give me is an unofficial eliminator, which is give me one more win, and then they'll hook me in to fight one of their champions, which would be a voluntary defense of one of their champions. You know, where I fought Munguia, that was a mandatory. I'd gotten to number 1 and gotten the mandatory status. You know, and then the last one was a voluntary defense. You know, so that's how it works.
And so are you like in the gym working, training to sort of to stay sharp throughout this whole process, or you got a bit of time off, or how's that work?
Yeah, look, I had gotten myself to a really good level of fitness, you know, tracking it all, getting stronger in the gym. I had a bit of a meniscus tear, which isn't a big deal. I seen a great guy, John Gallagher, a knee specialist there in Brisbane. I seen him on the Tuesday night. He got me in on the Wednesday morning for surgery. So I got that done. I was on crutches for a week. I've been off it for a week, and I can start back a bit of shadow boxing this week, and I've done a bit of strength and conditioning yesterday. I'll be back boxing probably in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, sweet.
So this coronavirus kind of worked in well with my knee.
The injury,
Yeah, but when he looked into it, he just went, your knee, that knee was like somebody that was like, you know, 15 years older than you, from all the smashing. And I've just been very lucky with my whole body anyway, that I've done well. But I do all the massage, I do the chiro, I do the physio, I do the magnesium baths, you know, I do all of that stuff. And so he just said that when he looked at my meniscus, he said that, oh, your ACL was under a lot of pressure there too. So he shaved back the bone while he was there. He said, your knee is now good to go. So that might have been a blessing in disguise as well, you know. So you don't want the ACL going. So that's what's on the cards for me, mate. And you know, we'll have the belts. The next time I'm back here, we'll have the belts, man.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited. Well, we just did 3 hours, mate, and I have thoroughly enjoyed our chat. I know a lot of other people will, and again, just like to be this honest and this open, and fuck, man, like more people in the world that are in the position that you're in. Like I said, you've got so much to give, but you're also so humble about it. And it's like, that's the people I want to fucking talk to. I learned a lot about myself in this podcast with you, and there's things that I want to implement, especially the right before bed, waking up. That's something that I'm going to try and make a part of my life now. And I just really fucking appreciate it, dude. You're a great guy.
Me too. I really appreciate it too. I was looking forward to getting on here when I see some of your clips. and how you guys talk a little bit deeper and scratch beneath the surface, I went, well, I'll have a chat like that. Let's do it, you know. So I did thoroughly enjoy it myself, mate. Thank you very much.
You will be back, and there'll be a fucking belt. I can see it now. You want to talk about
Can you feel
visualization?
it?
It's
Let's
like,
give it a polish.
it's like right there. Righto, mate. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Fuck yeah, mate. Thanks so much.
Yeah, man. I really enjoyed that. Thank you.